778 Chase to Kill. The ice-fire beast charged at Feng Wu at an unbelievable speed. Shit! An alarm seemed to go off in Feng Wu's head. Run! Feng Wu was overwhelmed by a sense of crisis and knew right away that she wouldn't survive if she let the ice-fire beast catch her. Without hesitation, Feng Wu summoned all her strength and ran as fast as she could. Run, run, run. She had never run at such a speed. But the ice-fire beast had discovered her, and it was too late to run. The beast was gaining on her. So was death. Feng Wu's stomach lurched and she thought her heart was going to stop. Was she going to die just like this? In front of the screen, Priest Wu was worried sick. That girl. Why wouldn't she withdraw from the tryout? Hit the button. Now! Priest Wu sent a message to Feng Wu. The voice came out so loud that Feng Wu thought her eardrums had shattered. And it made her head spin. But withdraw from the tryout? Feng Wu shook her head. That had never been an option for her. There had to be a way out. There had to be. All of a sudden, an idea came to Feng Wu. Yes! She wouldn't be able to catch up with the other blue duck, regardless of what kind of magical beast it was, but she could somehow draw it to her. With bait big enough, it could be done. At that thought, Feng Wu shook the cub awake. Feng Tuta might be sleepy all the time, but it was a smart and reliable companion in a critical moment like this. All Feng Wu could use was her own blood. After smearing Feng Tutu's neck with her blood, she gave it some instructions, then sent it off. The ice-fire beast caught up to her the moment the cub dashed off. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu muttered an incantation. The next moment, the snow covered her, and she fell even deeper. The ice-fire beast stared at the spot where Feng Wu had been a moment ago, a taunting smile on its face. That stupid human girl. Did she think she could run away? Die! The ice-fire beast had very acute senses. Moreover, now that it had risen to level 7, its capability had doubled. Thump! It pounded the ground with all its might. In front of the screen, Priest Wu's eyes popped. He was worried sick. Feng Wu! Get out now! You're going to die. You really are. That's a level 7 spiritual grandmaster magical beast. Priest Wu shouted in Feng Wu's mind. Feng Wu drew in a breath. She couldn't afford the distraction anymore. Then, she removed the headband given by Imperial College. Squeak. Priest Wu realized that although he could still see Feng Wu, he could no longer hear her voice. That was to say, she wouldn't be able to hear him either. Priest Wu was astonished. What on earth was the girl going to do? Priest Wu was exasperated, but he couldn't just drag Feng Wu out through the screen. All he could do now was stare at the screen nervously. Back in the snowfield, Feng Wu was hiding under a snowdrift. No matter where she hid, the ice-fire beast seemed to be able to sense her in advance. It pounded on the ground continuously. And it was a level 7 spiritual grandmaster. Each blow created a 10m crater in the ground. And Feng Wu tried her best to dodge every time. She was able to narrowly get out of harm's way. Over and over again. Cold sweat rolled down Feng Wu's forehead as time went by. If one looked closely, they would notice that her face had turned ghastly pale. 779 A turn for the better. Feng Wu was ghastly pale. With the blood loss, she looked dreadful against the white snow. She was covered in cold sweat, but she was burning inside at the same time. The chill and the heat made Feng Wu feel like she was being roasted and frozen at the same time. Creak. She ground her teeth together, but couldn't stop them from chattering. But what else could she do? She was hanging on by the skin of her teeth and she couldn't afford any reckless moves. Boom! Another round of blows rumbled overhead. The ice-fire beast was furious and gloating at the same time. As a matter of fact, if it exerted all its power, it would have caught Feng Wu already. However, the beast had grown proud after its breakthrough, and it was showing off its capability. Right now, it acted like a cat playing with a mouse. It was going to taunt Feng Wu and scare her before dealing the final blow. Boom! There was another round of pounding over Feng Wu's head. As time went by, Feng Wu grew weaker and she felt dizzy. Her vision was going dark. It hurt. Feng Wu felt as if she had been torn in half. One side was cold and the other hot. She felt hot inside and cold outside. Cold sweat and hot sweat was coming out of her pores at the same time. It hurt. Boom! Another round of pounding. This time, Feng Wu had no strength left to dodge and she had to take the assault with her own body. Feng Wu's bloodless face and shivering body finally emerged from under the snow. In the moonlight, the ice-fire beast saw Feng Wu lying in the snow with her eyes closed. It couldn't tell if she was alive or dead. Blood was splattered on the snow around her. The red color was almost blazing against the snow. There was a greedy look in the ice-fire beast's eyes as it studied the blood on the snow. Suppressing its urge, it slowly approached Feng Wu, one step at a time. Closer, closer. The ice-fire beast could smell the fresh blood. It stuck out its tongue and licked its lips. That was it. It was done pretending to be patient. It charged at Feng Wu and was ready to eat the human whole. It had a premonition. The human girl was spilling spiritual essence like a fountain. She was like a ripe fruit. Swallow her and the ice-fire beast would enjoy another upgrade in its capability. Maybe it would become a level 8 now. The ice-fire beast was thrilled. However, at that moment there came a panicked cry, and it was coming this way. It was in the ice-fire beast's nature to be cautious. It looked up involuntarily in the direction of the voice. In the moonlight, a black dot the size of a palm was running this way at tremendous speed. And a giant magical beast was chasing it in a frenzy. The giant beast was very powerful, but the little thing in front of it was too nimble. It kept changing directions, throwing the magical beast off track. A Qilin beast? The ice-fire beast was astonished. Qilin beasts formed a powerful community in Proud Snowfield. They had always lived in Zone 1 and were at the top of the food chain. Why would such a beast show up in Zone 2? Before the ice-fire beast could figure it out, it saw that the Qilin beast was coming this way. Feng Wu had left the cub with explicit instructions and it knew what to do. Whoosh! The cub sprinted, leapt onto the ice-fire beast's back, then climbed onto its head. It then gave vent to a torrent of abuse. 780 Surprise. Ah! Hit me and my dad will kill you, the cub shouted in the language of magical beasts. Your dad? This Qilin beast was only a cub. Despite its young age, it was savage, extremely powerful, and very proud. It wouldn't stand for any sort of provocation. Before the Qilin beast could reply, the ice-fire beast flared up. It's Dad. Are you kidding me? The ice-fire beast had no idea that the tiger cub belonged to Feng Wu and only thought that the grudge was between the tiger cub and the Qilin beast. It bellowed, I'm not your dad. Get the hell off my head. It only wanted to get rid of the other two beasts so that they wouldn't try to take its prey. But the tiger cub took out an egg from the pouch around its neck. It was almost half the size of the cub's body. No, the Qilin beast screamed. But it was too late. Still sitting on the ice-fire beast's head, the tiger cub aimed the egg at the tip of its horn. Just like a human being cracking a chicken egg. Crack, Dad, didn't you say you wanted a fried egg? Fry this one. The tiger cub patted the beast's head. The ice-fire beast was furious. Since when did it want a fried egg? Enraged, flames rose from under the ice-fire beast's skin. Sizzled up the broken egg on its head was instantly cooked, and really became a fried egg. But the ice-fire beast had no idea what was happening on its head. Brother! Qilin beast cried out in disbelief. Its eyes popped. That was its little brother. Its parents had enjoined repeatedly before they left home this morning that it had to take care of its baby brother. But now that his brother had turned into a fried egg, the Qilin beast was infuriated. It went berserk. Its eyes turned bloodshot red as rage took over its mind. Instantly, ice arrows rose up into the air and flew at the ice fire beast. Dad! Dad! Help! Help! The tiger cub was so tiny that it could easily hide behind the ice fire beast. That only infuriated the Qilin beast further. Do you think your dad can save you? In your dreams. The Qilin beast shifted its murderous gaze to the ice fire beast. And more ice arrows smashed down. During the pursuit earlier, the tiger cub had been boasting about its spectacular, formidable dad, who was supposed to be powerful enough to wipe out the entire Qilin beast race. The Qilin beast already held a grudge against this dad because of that, and with what had just happened, it found the ice fire beast even more despicable. The ice fire beast was infuriated as well. It was going to have a quiet dinner of the human girl, but this Qilin beast just showed up out of nowhere and began to attack it. Did that Qilin beast think it was going to sit there and take the hits? The ice fire beast considered itself powerful enough to move into Zone 1 already. However, intimidated by the Qilin beast race, the ice fire beast could only grind its teeth. Qilin beast, you've been misled. That tiger cub isn't my son. I'm an ice fire beast. How can I have a tiger as a kid? Are you blind? The ice fire beast was so vexed. It was still a virgin. How come it was a dad all of a sudden? The Qilin beast smirked. Your tiger cub boasted about everything to me. Its mother was a silver tiger. Are you going to shirk your responsibility now? That's just ridiculous. The Qilin beast didn't reply, but went on attacking the ice fire beast. The ice fire beast lost its temper. I've had enough. This Qilin beast might be a cub, but it was from a superior race that dwelled in Zone 1 in proud snowfield. 781 New Hope. The ice fire beast was furious. I was only playing nice because you're from Zone 1. Are you ever going to stop? After being teased by the tiger cub this whole time and seeing its little brother get fried, the Qilin beast had lost its senses. It was common for magical beasts to break into fights for no reason. Hence thump. 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 A fight broke out right away. Seeing the two finally exchange blows, the tiger cub let out a breath of relief. It jumped down from the ice fire beast and dashed into a snowdrift. The next time it showed up, it was next to Feng. Roar! The cub boasted about its achievement to Feng. But Feng was lying in the snow, her skin damp and cold from sweating profusely. The cub nudged Feng, but she didn't move. It nudged Feng again, but still got no response. Bewildered, the cub nudged Feng repeatedly as it whined. Right now, Feng felt as if her head was on fire. The fire then spread out and grew bigger. The fire spread from inside out and threatened to burn Feng into ashes. The cub was worried sick. What should it do? The Qilin beast and the ice fire beast were fighting a short distance away. The wind picked up the loose snow from the ground and threw it into the air, along with some blood. The air itself smelled of danger. The cub found it too dangerous to stay here, but it was too little to carry Feng away. It had no choice but to drag Feng all the way to the foot of a snowdrift, then cover her up with a thick layer of snow. The cub walked around Feng, so worried that it was in tears. What? The cub noticed the jade pendant hanging on Feng's waistband. It glittered in the darkness. What was that? Following its instinct, the cub pulled the pendant off Feng's waistband, then put it on the wound on Feng's neck. It wondered if the pendant could help. The cub shivered a little in the chilly wind. It then found a comfortable spot in Feng's arms and closed its eyes. It was still so young, and it had used up its spiritual essence to lure the Qilin beast here. The cub soon slipped into deep meditation. As for Feng, it was as if a volcano was erupting inside her body, but at the same time, she was freezing on the outside. An endless mountain range seemed to separate the inside from the outside, and it felt as if the two sides would never be compatible. Feng Wu couldn't move, but her mind had never been so clear. Was this terminal lucidity? Feng Wu had a bitter taste in her mouth. She had considered combining the spiritual energy of two attributes, but thought she had activated the elements of fire and earth, but not ice. Without the ice element, she wouldn't be able to merge fire and water together. Feng Wu was full of utter despair when all of a sudden. Thump! Something snapped inside her. It was as if a thick layer of ice had cracked. The ice then grew thin and collapsed. That was what seemed to be going on in Feng Wu's dantian. That! Feng Wu thought she could see dots of white light flying around her. They felt like cold breath and looked like pretty snowflakes. Was she hallucinating? Feng Wu thought that she was imagining it because she was under the snow. She was fantasizing about having an ice attribute. But how can that possible? A wry smile appeared on Feng Wu's pale face. All of a sudden the ice began to fly into her body. 782 Activate the ice attribute. It was the tiniest amount, but was enough to wake Feng Wu up. It was like a few drops of rain falling into a raging fire. What? Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? Had she somehow activated a specialization in the ice attribute? But didn't the activation take place when one was young? Was it still possible for adults? Feng Wu was beyond astonished. She was so weak that she almost passed out from the excitement. After taking 3 deep breaths, Feng Wu was finally able to gather some strength. With much difficulty, she sat up, then took out a crystal ball from her ring. It was used to examine one's spiritual essence. She pressed a palm to the crystal ball. Immediately, 3 colors appeared in it. The fire attribute took up the biggest section, followed by the earth attribute. Between the red and the brown was a bluish-white belt. It hadn't been there before. Feng Wu's stomach lurched, and she felt a burst of pleasant surprise. The water attribute was blue in color, which made that bluish-white belt the ice attribute. Feng Wu was so excited. Normally, one had to work on their water attribute until they reached a certain stage before the ice attribute could be derived from it. But now, she had somehow activated the ice attribute directly. Feng Wu had to take a few deep breaths to absorb the good news. Holy shit! Talk about a blessing in disguise. The narrow escape from death was only a small price to pay in exchange for what she had gained. Taking another deep breath, Feng Wu activated her spiritual essence, directing the ice element into her body. Feng Wu was exceptionally lucky. Any other day, she wouldn't have so much ice attribute energy to use. But now, she was in the middle of proud snowfield and was surrounded by an endless supply of ice. And what was even better, Feng Wu wouldn't have been able to consume much ice attribute energy before, but now the heat inside her was like a bottomless pit, and no amount of ice seemed enough. It would be such a waste if Feng Wu didn't make good use of this opportunity. Without hesitation, Feng Wu sat up with much difficulty. The slightest move caused such excruciating pain, and she almost stopped breathing, but she still managed to sit up with her legs crossed. It took her several minutes just to get into position. Sweat covered her forehead. Crack! A noise made Feng Wu lower her head involuntarily. She noticed the jade pendant. It had been on her neck, sticking to the wound where the ice fire beast had bitten her. The cool jade wasn't freezing to the touch. Wait! Feng Wu spotted a crack on the pendant. It was a bluish-white color. The color of the ice element. Wait! Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the activation of the ice attribute had something to do with this jade pendant? Was it possible? Feng Wu wanted to deny it, but a voice in her head kept telling her, yes, that was it. It was all because of this jade pendant from Jun Linyuan. Shaking her head, Feng Wu stuffed the pendant back into her pocket. That could wait. Her top priority now was to absorb the ice attribute energy. Sitting still, Feng Wu activated her spiritual essence, gradually taking in the ice attribute energy through her skin, blood circulation, breathing. Feng Wu felt as if she had been split into two halves. She was hot inside and cold on the outside. And there seemed to be a wall between the two, stopping them from fusing with each other. 783 How's the girl doing? The ice attribute energy gradually seeped into Feng Wu's body. It then met the fire attribute energy. Whoosh! There was a sizzling sound, which was expected when water met fire. But the ice attribute energy was much weaker than its fire counterpart, and it was used up almost as soon as it entered Feng Wu. However, Feng Wu was able to sense the surging spiritual essence during this process. She absorbed more, which was consumed, and the process was repeated all over again. Time passed without her knowing it. The sun rose, dispelling the darkness. Then darkness returned again. She lost track of time. Meanwhile, Priest Wu was worried sick in front of the screen. Grand Secretary Feng returned to find that the screen had gone dark. What happened? Priest Wu smiled bitterly. Xiao Wu took off her headband. We can't hear her. But what happened to the visual? Grand Secretary Feng glared at him. Priest Wu gave him a wry smile. She's underground. Come to think of it, that girl is so incredible. He then told Grand Secretary Feng what happened. Grand Secretary Feng's mouth fell open. The girl is practically a miracle worker. Grand Secretary Feng had thought he would lose Feng Wu for good, but the girl was able to open a new path. She had instructed the tiger cub to lure a Chilan beast to her location before instigating a fight between the two beasts, which was still ongoing. From the bait to the actual fight, so many things could have gone wrong and every step could have led to a complete failure. But Feng Wu had done it. That tiger cub is an awesome little thing, too. Grand Secretary Feng shook his head with a wry smile. It had been sleeping in Feng Wu's pocket all this time and no one knew it could be such a great help in a critical moment like this. By the way, what did His Majesty say? Priest Wu asked. Grand Secretary Feng shook his head. The entrance of Proud Snowfield has closed and a lot of work will be involved if we want to open it again before the tryout ends. His Majesty is working on it. He then checked the screen on the left for the current rankings. The first had changed to Yu Minji. Xianyuan Yi was second. And Gong Sun Qing was third. He read all the 200 names. Feng Wu wasn't there. Grand Secretary Feng smiled bitterly. When was that girl going to come out of the snow? Outside Imperial College. Many were discussing animatedly about the change in the rankings. Yu Minji is first now. What's so surprising about that? Where else should the sacred sun be? Princess Mu Yaoyao fell out of the rankings the other day for some unknown reason, but she's making her way back up. She's already 10th. Speaking of which, Miss Gongsun is so impressive. She fell out of the first 200 the other day, but she's already third now. That Feng Wu, on the other hand, never made it into the rankings. It seems she's really a good-for-nothing. Of course she is. She's always been a cripple. No one expected otherwise. Hey, do you know Duan Chaoga, that friend of Feng Wu's? What do you think? She's like Feng Wu's most loyal minion. Look, Duan Chaoga is 7th. Wow! That's really something. Duan Chaoga is 7th and Feng Wu isn't even in the first 200. If Duan Chaoga makes it into Imperial College and Feng Wu doesn't. Oh God, Feng Wu will be so mad. 784 The Peril Godly Empress Doctor. The rankings on the screen outside Imperial College were updated every hour. After each update, the new rankings would be sent to all the major families right away. Northern Feng Mansion. Lady Northern Feng heaved a long sigh as she read the latest report. Feng Sun looked at her in bewilderment. Mother, what was that for? Lady Northern Feng said, what do you think? I'm worried about your sister. If you ask me, she should never have taken part in that tryout in the first place. One should always work at what they're good at and avoid their weak points. Cultivation and spiritual essence weren't your sister's forte at all, but she just had to go. Feng Sun tilted his head and his eyes darted around. What are you thinking? Lady Northern Feng asked. Feng Sun said, if I can give her a hand. Of course you can. What are you waiting for? Lady Northern Feng cast a stern look at Feng Sun. Do I need to remind you that she's your sister? Feng Sun waved his hands. I know she's my sister. I'm just not sure if it's a good idea to help her with getting into Imperial College. We can decide that later. Just help her now. Lady Northern Feng pounded her fist on the table. Feng Sun nodded. I'll go get Boss June. Back in proud Snowfield. While Feng Wu hid underground, the Qilin Beast and the Ice Fire Beast tore at each other's throat. The fierce battle had attracted a lot of the candidates' attention. For the first time in days, smoke rose from the snowfield. After a few days of searching, more candidates had found each other. Right now, teams had formed in proud Snowfield. Yu Minji had entered the central area as soon as the tryout started and no one had spotted him since. Hence, the most capable team at the moment was built around Shenyuan Yi. The team members included Shenyuan Yi, Fang Hai, Luo Zhen, and some other candidates, including Mu Yaoyao. And the second team was led by Gong Sun Qing. Shi Xian, Tao Shuang, Yin Yi, and Du Jian were among the members. Ning Chenxi had his own team as well. Word is there's a battle in Zone 2, and a fierce one. I'd love to go have a look. Are you sure? I don't think we're capable enough to go there yet. How about we join hands and go in together? Many agreed to the idea. In the end, dozens of candidates formed new teams and headed for Zone 2. Feng Wu had no idea of the approaching newcomers. Right now, she was still hiding under the snow. Once the ice attribute energy entered her dantian, it was transformed into spiritual essence and circulated around her body. Her focus at the moment was solely on her cultivation. The ice attribute energy kept seeping in before running through her channels in the form of spiritual essence. It was an addition to the fire attribute energy. As the ice attribute energy worked its way in, Feng Wu could sense her body being enhanced. And, to her excitement, the two kinds of energy began to merge. No matter how much ice attribute energy entered her body, it would be melted down. Feng Wu had brought some spiritual stones with her. Whenever her spiritual essence ran out, she would draw on the top-grade spiritual stones. Luckily, she had dug out quite a few spiritual stones from underneath the Feng Manor. They were all stored in her ring. 1, 2, 3. Once the spiritual stones were drained of spiritual essence, they turned to ash, which Feng Wu would scatter on the ground. Absorb the ice attribute energy, work it into her body, and turn it into spiritual essence. 785 Out of danger. The spiritual essence would then merge with the fire attribute energy. Feng Wu would then draw on the top-grade spiritual stones to recover before starting the process again. The cycle went on and on. Although she didn't make any progress in her cultivation level, Feng Wu was getting stronger with this cultivation cycle. Time crawled by. Feng Wu stopped her cultivation when she sensed that she had attained perfection at her current level. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The debilitating feeling was gone. She was back to normal. She had finally consolidated her foundation, which had been a little shaky lately with how fast she was making progress. Feng Wu rubbed Feng Tutu in her pocket. Thanks to this little guy, who had lured that Qilin beast here at the critical moment, she was still alive. Brushing the snow away, Feng Wu saw daylight again. After spending days in the dark, the white snow stung her eyes a little. Feng Wu raised a hand to shield her eyes from the light. She only put her hand down after she got used to the light outside again. It was a mess in the snowfield. The ice fire beast was lying in a pool of blood. Its chest had been slashed open and its entrails were everywhere, making for a gory scene. But it wasn't dead yet. It was staring at Feng Wu. It could no longer pose a threat. Instead, the light in its eyes was fading. Feng Wu then checked the other side. The Qilin beast didn't look any better. It was lying less than 10 meters away from the ice fire beast. There was a gash on its neck which had almost decapitated it. Its head was barely attached to its body. It made a raspy noise when it spotted Feng Wu, but couldn't utter a proper sound. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu watched with open mouths. Even this is possible? The two old men exchanged looks of amazement. She had lured the Qilin beast over and hidden in the snow, and was now coming up to clear the mess afterward. By clearing up the mess. Feng Wu crouched down, took out a dagger, and whoosh. She cut a horn off the ice fire beast's head. Arg! The ice fire beast screamed and glared at Feng Wu. These cruel, despicable human beings. Feng Wu smiled a little. Are you accusing me of being cruel and despicable? Well, it's the law of the jungle. After that, she raised the blade and cut off the remaining horn. There were two horns on the ice fire beast's head, known as the fire dragon horn and the ice dragon horn respectively. They contained all the beast's achievements in cultivation. Feng Wu specialized in both the ice and fire attributes, and the two horns would benefit her greatly. You'll die without ice attribute energy. Mwahaha, the ice fire beast glowered at Feng Wu. Blue veins popped on its forehead and its face was twisted with rage. Feng Wu raised a hand and a ball of fire appeared on her palm. The ice fire beast watched in bewilderment. However, to its amazement, it saw the ball of fire then become encased in an ice cube. The cube wrapped around the fire like a protective lampshade. No, the ice fire beast stared at Feng Wu so hard that its eyes popped. That was impossible. The beast couldn't believe it. The girl hadn't had the ice attribute energy in her when it had sucked her blood. I guess I have you to thank. Feng Wu darted an indifferent glance at the beast. Without you, I probably would have never been able to activate the ice attribute. 786 Feeling good. No. The ice fire beast glared at Feng Wu and wouldn't look away. It shook its head repeatedly. Blood poured out of the holes where the horns used to be. The ice fire beast spat out a mouthful of blood, convulsed violently, and died. It refused to close its eyes. It was still staring at Feng Wu with a twisted face in its very last moment. In front of the screen, Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu exchanged amazed looks yet again. Priest Wu asked, "Ice attribute?" Grand Secretary Feng said, "Yes." Priest Wu asked, "Can it happen to adults?" Grand Secretary Feng said, "Not normally." But Feng Wu had done it. Just then, footsteps came from outside. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu switched the camera focus right away and the screen now showed Shenyuan Yi. A tall, thin old man in a neat white robe walked in, looking almost ethereal. He greeted Grand Secretary Feng with a smile as soon as he entered the room. "Mr. Feng, have you been here every day?" It was the elderly head of the Shenyuan family and one of the 7 members of the education board, Shenyuan Kun. "I have." Grand Secretary Feng nodded, then gestured at Shenyuan Kun to sit down. Seeing his grandson on the screen, Shenyuan Kun smiled even more cheerfully. "Have you been observing Yi Air?" Grand Secretary Feng nodded. "Shenyuan Yi has been quite impressive." Shenyuan Kun gloated, which didn't match his otherworldly demeanor. Stroking his goatee, he feigned a look of resignation. "Not impressive enough, apparently. He's still second." "What a pity." Priest Wu rubbed his chin. "Not necessarily." Shenyuan Kun looked as if he was confused. "How so?" Priest Wu cursed the cunning old man in his head. The old fox was doing this on purpose. However, he still answered the question. The sacred son might be first in the physical tryout, but he did very poorly in the written exam. We can't say for sure that he'll be first. Shenyuan Kun rubbed his chin, as if he was lost in thought, but his eyes flickered. He then waved his hand. No, that can't be. The sacred son is as famous as his royal highness, there's no way my heir will be able to surpass him. Priest Wu vented his sarcasm inwardly. If that's the case, cut the crap already. However, in order to keep Shenyuan Kun's attention away from Feng Wu, Priest Wu had to find every excuse to compare Shenyuan Yi with Yu Minji. Of course it's possible. Anything is possible. We'll never know before the final results are out. Priest Wu gave a double-edged reply. In fact, Priest Wu found Feng Wu much more promising than Shenyuan Yi. Grand Secretary Feng had warned Priest Wu already. For some special reason, Feng Wu's recovery of her cultivation ability couldn't be made public yet. It had to stay a secret. Priest Wu grinned at Shenyuan Kun. To him, first and second place in the exam should belong to Feng Wu and Yu Minji. There was no hope for Shenyuan Yi. However, old man Shenyuan here took the bait. You really think my heir has a chance? Yes, of course. Everyone has a chance. Have faith. Priest Wu smiled like a fox. Shenyuan Kun waved his hands again, feigning modesty. You flatter me. Come to think of it, heir really has great talent in martial arts. And he did pretty well in the written exam, too. Ha ha ha. 787 exposed? Old man Shenyuan might try to sound modest, but he failed to hide the satisfaction in his voice. Grand Secretary Feng darted a look at the guy. No one there was nearly as talented as Feng Wu. The girl could activate a second attribute at her current age. And Feng Wu was unmatched in her performance in the written exam. She was the first candidate in history to achieve full marks. Grand Secretary Feng casually darted another look at Shenyuan Kun. Buddy, you'll see. Oh, by the way. Shenyuan Kun feigned an indifferent tone. How about we take a look at that Yu Minji? What's he up to at the moment? The old man was really here to sound them out. Grand Secretary Feng knew that the top candidate each year would be rewarded with special cultivation resources. The fact that even someone as experienced as Shenyuan Kun was interested in the reward was proof enough of how valuable it was. Grand Secretary Feng darted a glance at Shenyuan Kun. The Sacred Son made an agreement with the college before he went in. All visual surveillance of him is off-limits. Shenyuan Kun rubbed his chin. He had heard rumors of it, but it still displeased him to be rejected outright. What about Feng Wu? Let's have a look at her. Shenyuan Kun changed his target. Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Feng exchanged looks. He wanted to see Xiao Wu. No way. The girl was taking her reward from that ice-fire beast even as they were speaking. If Shenyuan Kun saw it, he would be alarmed and would probably keep an eye on Feng Wu from now on. The Shenyuan family was well acquainted with the Zhou family, and Shenyuan Kun was also a close friend of Zhou He. Xiao Wu was the reason Zhou He was dead. Therefore, the girl couldn't be exposed no matter what. At that thought, Grand Secretary Feng turned him down. That girl has long lost her cultivation ability and she's not even in the first 200. Why do you want to look at what she's doing? Priest Wu chimed in, and she's a girl, and could be swimming or taking a bath as we speak. That's highly inappropriate for us old men to watch. You old bat. Embarrassed, Shenyuan Kun tried to make an excuse. I'm curious, that's all. No, you're not. You're worried that Feng Wu will threaten Shenyuan Yi's ranking. Are you serious? The girl isn't even in the first 200. Forget it. According to the most updated information, only the names of the first 200 candidates were on the screen, but Grand Secretary Feng had the clearance level to see the full list. And he scrolled down the list. All 900 candidates were ranked according to their scores. Of the original 1,000 candidates, 100 had withdrawn because of the dangers they had run into. Of the remaining 900 candidates, Feng Wu was ranked last. Even someone as composed as Shenyuan Kun couldn't suppress his laughter when he saw the rankings. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu both frowned. Xiao Wu had absorbed the spiritual essence of both the ice-fire beast and the Qilin beast, but because she had removed her headband, the stars weren't lit. Otherwise, she would be at the top of the list. Shenyuan Kun had no idea what the other two old men were thinking. Stroking his beard, he smiled wryly. The first in the written exam is last in the physical tryout. That's a first. Xianyuan Kun left the room, still chuckling. Feng Wu had no idea what was going on outside, nor was she aware of the harsh comments about her. Right now, she was focused on absorbing every last bit of the spiritual essence coming out of the ice-fire beast. 788 A Great Harves. The spiritual essence was dissipating fast. If Feng Wu didn't act quickly enough, it would soon disappear into thin air. Therefore, Feng Wu woke the cub and little phoenix up, and got them to absorb the spiritual essence along with her. The girl, the cub, and the bird formed a triangle around the ice-fire beast and feasted on the spiritual essence, and they didn't stop until it ran out 15 minutes later. After that, Feng Wu turned to that Qilin beast. With its head barely attached to its body, the beast stared at the tiger cub with a despairing look in its eyes. This cub was the culprit in this whole thing. The tiger cub had lured the Qilin beast out and instigated a fight between the two beasts. Then, it wasn't your dad. Seeing that the tiger cub was very close to the human girl and that it was even absorbing the ice-fire beast's spiritual essence, the Qilin beast finally realized what had happened. It stammered out those words in broken beast language, feeling utterly betrayed. The tiger cub looked back at the Qilin beast with an innocent look in its eyes and shook its head. Of course not. The Qilin beast was shocked. So, it had been tricked by this abominable tiger cub. It wanted to cut the cub into pieces. Its gaze then shifted from the cub to Feng Wu. Her blood smelled so good. Staring at Feng Wu with a greedy look in its eyes, the Qilin beast said to the cub in a matter-of-fact tone, "You, do me a favor." The cub looked at it in bewilderment. The Qilin beast swallowed in pain, then stared at Feng Wu. "Kill her and give her blood to me." Instinct made the Qilin beast struggle for its life. Somehow, it knew that it would survive if it could eat the human girl. Had it known better, had it known that the human girl was hiding in the snow, it would have shared the girl with that ice-fire beast. She would have been dead by now. Feng Wu recognized the murderous look in the Qilin beast's eyes. What is it saying? Feng Wu didn't understand the language. It said, "Kill you, drink your blood." While the cub was still gesturing with its paws, little Phoenix, who was the more intelligent one, translated for Feng Wu. "And, if it knew that you were hiding in the snow, it wouldn't have fought with the ice-fire beast. It would have shared you with the ice-fire beast and they could eat you together." Little Phoenix broke the cruel news to Feng Wu. Feng Wu was speechless. Luckily, the cub had dragged her into a pit, or she would have been eaten up by now. Feng Wu went up to the Qilin beast, crouched down, and stared at it coldly. "I didn't mean to get you involved and I was sorry that you almost got decapitated. I was going to treat your wound." The beast might be beyond saving for other doctors, but not Feng Wu. She could have saved this Qilin beast cub, but your worst decision was to express your will to kill me at this moment. Feng Wu looked into the Qilin beast's pleading yet angry and agitated eyes. "I know you're pissed and you may even promise not to kill me afterward, but," Feng Wu smiled. "I know the story of the farmer and the snake. You." The Qilin beast spoke its own language, but it could understand what Feng Wu was saying. 789 Men in Black. It stared at Feng Wu with unblinking eyes. Finally, the Qilin beast spat out a mouthful of blood before collapsing on the ground. It died with its eyes open. A pot appeared in Feng Wu's hand, together with a tube. She stuck one end of the tube into the Qilin beast's neck and left the other end in the pot. The Qilin beast's blood then flowed into the pot through the tube. "It would be such a waste if we let such precious material rot here." Once the tube was set, Feng Wu found a flat area to put the pot down, then beckoned little Phoenix and the cub over to absorb the spiritual essence of the Qilin beast. Feng Wu had quite a few spiritual stones left, but in order to absorb the spiritual essence from them, they had to go through an extraction process first. The Qilin beast's spiritual essence, on the other hand, existed separately to begin with, and was much faster to absorb. It was efficient and much less wasteful. If Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu hadn't stopped Shen Yuan-kun earlier and had let the guys switch the camera focus back to Feng Wu, this would be what they would have seen. All would be exposed if that happened. They drained the Qilin beast of all its spiritual essence in 15 minutes. Little Phoenix and the cub both fell asleep. Feng Wu knew that both would be able to make another breakthrough after they woke up, and they would be incredible. Feng Wu smiled at that thought. With a wave of her hand, she put the two pets away in her ring. And the pot full of Qilin blood was also stored there. Feng Wu had built a small storage room about 5 square meters in size inside the ring space, where she put all her bits and bobs. As for the rest of the ring space, well, it was her beautiful master's personal space and she wouldn't mess it up with all the sundry goods. Once that was done, Feng Wu torched the dead bodies of the two beasts. She left only after they were burnt to cinders. Shortly after she left, all of a sudden, apparition-like figures appeared on the spot where Feng Wu had been standing. They were all dressed in black. Black head scarves, black masks, black robes, black trousers, and black shoes. These people seemed to suck in all the light around them. They weren't students of Imperial College, which was why the system didn't detect them. A battle took place here. The head of this team of 10 was a slender hitman. Staring at the embers, he frowned a little. The battle was between two magical beasts, but I see signs of Feng Wu. A short man went down on all fours and snuffled loudly in the snow. He followed the scent and headed all the way toward a pile of snow. Before long, he began to dig into the ground until he reached a hole. Feng Wu was hiding here earlier. This team of men in black uniforms were professionals. Both their tones and their movements sent chills down one's spine. It was as if they weren't talking about a real person, but a corpse. Feng Wu, who was walking in a valley, sneezed all of a sudden. Achoo! She rubbed her nose. Was someone talking about her behind her back? Back to the other side. The lanky team leader looked down at the short member. 10, are you sure? Yes, Captain. The eyes of the teenager addressed as 10 glinted. How can you be so sure? Do I need to remind you that by successfully completing this task, our team, Blade, will be set for the rest of the year? The team leader stared at 10 with a savage look in his eyes. 790 winter is coming. I can detect her scent here and it's still quite fresh. That is to say, she hasn't been gone for too long. 10 returned his captain's gaze, his voice full of confidence. She was able to live through a fight between two magical beasts. She doesn't look like a cripple to me. The team leader grinned ominously. 2 said in a casual tone, a cripple wouldn't have been able to stay alive in Zone 2 for 3 days. That alarmed all the other members. The team leader grinned. The employer made a side note on the contract, and suspects that she has regained her cultivation ability. Guys, once this job is done, we're set for a whole year. Are you in or not? We're in. Good. We're moving out. They had been flying low for 3 days, searching every inch from Zone 5 to Zone 2. Finally, they were closing in on Feng Wu. Feng Wu had no idea that a team of hitmen was coming after her, let alone that this team was able to evade detection by the system and enter Proud Snowfield without raising the alarm. Feng Wu checked the map in her head. She frowned a little. If she was guessing right, a team of over 50 members was headed for Zone 2 in the direction of where the two beasts had fought. Feng Wu was glad that she had torched the remains of the Qilin beast and the Ice Fire beast. Otherwise, the others might look into it, and there would be a lot of trouble. She had 2 options now. One was to meet up with Chowga in Zone 3. They would then go to the central area together to find the Frosty Night Beast. The other option was to enter the central area alone, where she would find the beast, get the Heart of Frost essence, then go and get Chowga. Feng Wu shook her head when she recalled Chowga's capability as a level 2 spiritual grandmaster. The Frosty Night Beast was too dangerous. Feng Wu would have to look after Chowga, and might be distracted if Chowga went with her, which would put Chowga in even more danger. Thus, Feng Wu decided to go by herself. Once that was decided, Feng Wu ducked her head against the wind and snow and hastened on. She ran into a sudden snowstorm on the way. The weather wasn't suitable for traveling anymore. Seeing that it was getting late, Feng Wu found a leeward slope, dug a hole in the snow, then crawled into it. It was a dark, windy night. Together with the raging snowstorm and the fact that she was on the edge of Zone 1, where formidable magical beasts dwelled, her life would be in danger if she pressed on. Feng Wu closed her eyes and began to cultivate once she sat down in the hole. After absorbing the spiritual essence of the ice-fire beast and the Qilin beast, Feng Wu needed time to process it so that it could be transformed into spiritual essence that she could use. Otherwise, it would only pile up in her energy channels and become a burden on her health. It was the same as drinking a potent tonic and not digesting it. Little Phoenix and the cub were much luckier. Once they settled down in their dormant states, their bodies automatically started to work, digesting the spiritual essence they had absorbed. That was the main difference between the cultivation methods of magical beasts and human beings. After circulating the spiritual essence around her body 3 times, Feng Wu was able to digest most of it. Just then, she heard faint voices outside. "Captain, the trail stops here." I followed Feng Wu's scent all the way until we reached this spot. It has disappeared. With the wind and snow, any traces of her would have been blown away immediately. Are you sure Feng Wu was here? Yes. Upon my life. The conversation continued. 791 She's right here. Feng Wu woke up in the hole as soon as she picked up on the conversation. Someone was hunting her down. And they had followed her here. What was going on? Wait. Ten let out a soft cry. What? I think I caught Feng Wu's scent again. You think? 10, are you sure? Yes. The team leader trusted Ten's expertise in reconnaissance and he gave the order right away. Everyone, start looking. Search everywhere within a 5 kilometers radius. Yes. Feng Wu slowed down her breathing and adjusted her body functions to the lowest level possible. She was practically in a vegetative state. Despite her inactive body, her brain was spinning. Someone wanted her dead. And judging from the footsteps, there were 10 of them. They were all advanced cultivators. Level 5 spiritual grandmasters, at least. Who sent them? How did they get into Proud Snowfield? Feng Wu was as inert as a stone and her heartbeat was barely detectable. It would be very difficult for those people to find her. The team gathered up after a short while. Captain, I didn't find the target. Captain, I didn't find the target. Captain, I didn't find the target. 8 members came back with the same report. But that didn't settle Feng Wu's mind. For some unknown reason, she knew that the scout who had detected her scent would report otherwise. She was right. She's here. All eyes were on 10. 7 said, no, she's not. 10, yes, she is. 7 asked, where, then? 10 smirked. You're practically looking at her. The others stared at 10. 10 grinned and pointed at the snowfield they were standing on. She's right here under the snow. I can sense her. Feng Wu. She was on guard. The guy had discovered where she was hiding. What kind of skill was that? Luckily, Feng Wu had activated the ice attribute, and with both the fire and ice energy, she was able to melt the snow and build a long tunnel underground. Then, she could move around easily in the snow. Feng Wu crawled on all fours, moving as slowly and carefully as a cautious gecko. Because of that 10 with his acute nose, Feng Wu had to be extra careful. If they caught her. Feng Wu had a hunch that these people would be worse news than that Qilin beast. The area they stood on was over 1,000 square meters in size, and it took them a while to search every inch. Roughly 15 minutes later they reported back to their captain, who was waiting by a snowdrift in the center of the area. Captain, the target isn't here. Captain, the target isn't here. Captain, the target isn't here. All 8 members came back with the same result again. Have you checked everywhere? The team leader frowned. Yes, every inch and as deep as 10 m underground. She isn't here. The same with me. The same with me. All eyes were on 10 again. The team leader also looked at 10. What do you say now? I can still detect her scent. She's here. Seeing that the others wouldn't believe him, 10 was a little on edge. Except she's not. 7 snorted. Apart from pits, tunnels, and water, the only thing underground is snow. Yes, that's what I found, too. 792 Deception. All of a sudden, 10 turned his sharp gaze on the rest of the team. What did you say? And nothing. Pits, tunnels, and water. 10 gave them a stern look. How can there be water underground? Everyone was astonished and enlightened. That was right. On a stormy night like this, the temperature had dropped so dramatically. All water should have frozen. Where? 10 bellowed. The other team members jumped at his voice, but then realized what was wrong. Without hesitation, 7 led him to the spot. Here. They searched in unison and found a small opening underneath. After some digging, they found what they had been searching for. The opening of the tunnel had smooth edges and was wide enough for just one person. The water had already frozen into ice. But 10 frowned after touching the ice. It hasn't been frozen for long. Feng Wu's scent is here and very fresh. The others exchanged looks of embarrassment. This is the spot where I detected water. This is the spot where I detected water. Several team members spoke in turn. The team leader's face went livid. Because if they were to draw a line through all the spots where they had detected water, they would find a long tunnel running from south to north. Still unconvinced, the team leader went up to one of the spots and dug down. And there really was a tunnel. Feng Wu was right here. 10 stared at the snowdrift in the center of the area. And they had been talking by it. That was to say, Feng Wu had heard everything they said. We must find her and take her out. Otherwise, our employer will be exposed. The team leader's eyes glinted. If we can't kill her in Proud Snowfield, we'll be facing damages too high for us to pay. He stared at 10 as he spoke. For 10 really had the ability to locate Feng Wu. 10 narrowed his eyes. She hasn't gone too far. Move! The team set off as soon as they could. With the tunnel made from her fire and ice energy, Feng Wu was able to get away from the area. Once she was over a kilometer away, she jumped out of the snow and began to run. Luckily, under the cover of night and the snowstorm, visibility was very poor. One couldn't see a thing a kilometer away. Once she was out of the tunnel, Feng Wu quickly erased all her tracks before running in the direction of Zone 1. She had no idea who sent those men in black, but she was alarmed by their skills in searching and tracking. Feng Wu pulled out a sledge and quickly slid away across the snow without leaving a trace. The team known as Blade arrived at the scene shortly afterward. 10 led the team and he pointed at the hole. Here is where the target went off-grid again. The others exchanged looks of bewilderment. The target was able to escape from us when we came at her from all directions, which says a lot about her capability and intelligence. We need to be more careful, the team leader said in a stern and alarmed voice. He then turned to 10. Which direction? 10 specialized in tracking. He went down on all fours and snuffed around, then lifted his head, looking confused. Everyone looked at him in bewilderment. The team leader frowned. Can you not find her? 10 shook his head. I can detect her scent in 3 directions. The team leader said, there are only 4 directions in total and you can smell her in 3. 10 looked as displeased as his leader. The target has realized we're tracking her. She has excellent counter-reconnaissance abilities and she's trying to throw us off track with deceptive tricks. 793 Ambush. Feng Wu moved swiftly in the snowstorm and headed directly for Zone 1. She had indeed split her tracks into 3. Little Phoenix, the cub, and she herself were running in 3 different directions. Both pets had been smeared with her blood, making sure that Ten could smell her scent. She was right. The team leader stared at Ten. Which one? Ten closed his eyes to heighten his senses, but shook his head in the end. I can't say for sure. Which direction is the most likely, then? North. Good. The team leader narrowed his eyes and made a decision. 2, 5, 10, you 3 follow me to the north. 3, 6, 9, to the south. 4, 7, 8, to the west. Once the tasks were assigned, Blade moved out. They ran into the snowstorm after their targets. 10 grew more certain as they moved on. The target is in this direction. The team leader was elated. Good. The night was dark and the wind howled. It was the darkest hour before dawn. Standing on a mountain peak, Feng Wu could see the enemy that was chasing her. However, the blue dots representing magical beasts were still a long distance away. At the current speed, she would be outrun in 10 minutes. A solemn look flickered in Feng Wu's eyes. She couldn't just stand around and wait for her doom. She had to save herself. Zone 1 was right ahead and she spotted a dilapidated temple. In this world of ice and snow, even a worn-down temple could bring hope. Feng Wu entered the temple without hesitation. The outside of the temple was in disrepair. This lone building in the middle of the snowfield threatened to fall down at the slightest breeze. However, after she walked in, Feng Wu saw that someone had cleaned it up. Not only was there a stove and firewood, she also found some rice and flour in a bucket. If she was guessing right, this place had been used as a temporary hunting lodge. Feng Wu smiled a little as she examined the makeshift kitchen. Other candidates couldn't bring many supplies in with them, but not her. For instance, all her potions were stored in her ring. After taking a quick tour of the kitchen, Feng Wu left the temple. But she didn't go far. Instead, she lay in wait under a snowdrift a few steps away from the temple. From that angle, Feng Wu could see the window, and she had already poked a hole in the window paper. She had the best view. She believed that those people would come after her very soon. As expected, in less than 10 minutes. Footsteps came from the other side. Captain, there's a house, one of them cried out in pleasant surprise. After a 3-day chase in the snow without rest, even these capable hitmen wanted a roof over their heads and a fire to warm their food. 10 frowned. 5, it's not time to eat yet. 5 was disgruntled. 10, can we at least continue the pursuit on a full stomach? We've been running for 3 days without rest and had to survive on rock-hard pancakes and snow. I'm not sure if we can survive for long if this goes on. 10 sulked, but didn't say another word. The team leader asked 10, anything new on the target? 10 frowned. Her scent has grown fainter and it's getting harder to track her. The team leader looked up at the sky, then shook his head. The snowstorm is getting heavier and we won't be able to travel in these conditions. We still have 4 days left. Let's take a break inside. 794 A perfect plan. The captain had spoken and the rest of them had to obey. Moreover, everyone except for 10 wanted to get some rest inside. Hiding in the snow pit, Feng Wu watched as the men entered the temple. Only then did she let out a breath of relief. She had held her breath in order to avoid being detected by 10. Looking at the closed door and the orange flames through the window, Feng Wu smiled a little. She rejoiced at her good luck. Luckily, she had cleaned up all her wounds and changed into new clothes, or 10 might actually have caught her scent just then. Feng Wu was almost sure that her blood was the reason that 10 had been able to track her. Inside. They saw the inside of the temple after the fire was lit. Not only was there a bedroom, the place came with a kitchen as well. And there was rice, flour, and firewood. 5 cried out in surprise, I see rice and flour. Gosh, what a blessing in lousy weather like this. Quick, let's cook some rice. 2's eyes lit up. I think I saw some cured meat hanging on the wall on our way in. Meat? All eyes widened at the mention of meat, and they reminded one of the eyes of hungry wolves. Ever since entering this terrain, they had survived on pancakes harder than rocks and colder than ice. They thought they were going to chew their teeth off. The thought of meat was most wonderful. I'll go get it. 5 rose to his feet in excitement. 10 wanted to go, but 2 stopped him. Let 5 do it. He's looking forward to it. 10 frowned. We're in the middle of nowhere and there's firewood and rice in a dilapidated temple. Don't you find that strange? The team leader shook his head. I've checked. The dust here suggests that no one has set foot in here for at least a month. Don't worry. 10 frowned. Something was nagging at him. He headed out. Where are you going? The team leader shouted after him. I'll take a walk outside. Maybe I'll find some leads. 10 then left the temple and headed north. The team leader shook his head. That guy is way too careful. 2 shook his head as well. It's one thing to be cautious, but he's overdoing it. The team leader and 2 used to find cooking a menial job, but they forgot all about that now. One lit the stove while the other put rice into a pot. Both enjoyed what they were doing. Outside. Feng Wu had put the meat there as bait. She was waiting for someone to come and get it. She was ready to kill. Feng Wu had planned to kill 10 first before moving on to the rest of the team one at a time. However, point 10 had left and 5 was here instead. Well, 5 would do. As long as she could get close to the team. 5 was reaching for the cured meat when what happened was quicker than words could describe. Feng Wu grabbed 5 by the ankles and pulled him into the pit. Before 5 could make a sound, Feng Wu hit him in an acupoint, which silenced him right away. 5 glared at Feng Wu until she knocked him out with a strike to the back of his neck. Without hesitation, Feng Wu stripped the guy and put on his clothes. Instantly, Feng Wu became the new 5. Fortunately for her, members of Blade all wore masks. All Feng Wu needed to do was make some changes to her movements and her eyes. 795 Undercover. The disguise wasn't difficult for Feng Wu at all. The difficulty lay in the fact that she didn't have much time, a few minutes at most. As expected, someone called from inside the temple. 5? 5. By then, Feng Wu had already put on 5's clothes. She picked up the cured meat and only headed back after straightening her new outfit. Luckily, everyone wore masks, which made it more difficult for them to see through her cover. But it didn't change the fact that it was dangerous. Feng Wu walked in to find the team leader making noodles and 2 working on the stove. This wasn't what she pictured a team of hitmen to look like. Seeing 5 come back, the team leader took over the meat from him, cut it into thin slices with his sword, then tossed the slices into the pot. Don't just stand around. We're low on water. Go fetch some snow. Sure. Feng Wu happily did as told. The team leader and 2 started a conversation as Feng Wu melted some snow in a bowl. The team leader said, "This Feng Wu is an interesting case, I'll give her that. She was actually able to evade us for 3 days." If the team leader was the head of the team, then 2 was the brain. Analyzing was his specialty. As he worked on the fire, 2 said, "Feng Wu is an incredible girl. Most of the rumors out there belittle her and call her a good-for-nothing, but they have no idea how level-headed she really is. She's been able to tolerate all the slander." The team leader frowned. "Is she that good?" 2 nodded. "Judging by the traces she left behind, she's at least a spiritual grandmaster." The team leader agreed. "An intermediate one, at least." 2 said, "She's really an impressive girl. She'll be a real threat to the Zhou family if they don't intervene." The team leader smirked. "Too bad for her, the Zhou family found out and want her dead." Feng Wu didn't hear the rest of the conversation. All she could think of was that last sentence. The Zhou family had found out and they wanted her dead. She had taken all possible precautions, but the Zhou family had still found out. Moreover, they had sent a team of hitmen after her. The Zhou family. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu tried her best not to let her emotions show. Tu said, "Captain, we should be even more careful from now on. One slip and we may blow the whole thing." As impressive as this Feng Wu might be, she's an intermediate spiritual grandmaster at most. And we're still hot on the heels of this smart girl, aren't we? The team leader smirked. Any one of us can take her out by ourselves. There's no need to worry. Tu shook his head. It's not that simple. The team leader grinned. Ten's out searching for her, isn't he? I bet he'll come back with Feng Wu's head on a plate. He then darted a glance at Feng Wu over his shoulder. What's taking you so long? All you need to do is melt some snow. 5. Keep working like a sluggard and 10 will replace you in no time. Feng Wu was speechless. The team leader waved his hand impatiently. I wouldn't worry about you so much if you were half as capable as 10. You know what? Stop what you're doing. Go fetch 10. Alright, Feng Wu headed out. She had been looking for an opportunity to get to 10, and it just fell into her lap. What great timing. Feng Wu was well aware that as a scout, 10 had a special ability to track things. It was because of him that she couldn't throw these people off her trail. Destroy the leader and the gang would collapse. At the moment, 10 was that leader. 796 Feng Wu, the excellent actress. At that thought, Feng Wu smiled a little. However, the mask shielded her face from the team leader and Tu. The team leader shook his head as he watched Feng Wu go out. 5 isn't sharp enough. If he doesn't improve soon enough, 10 is going to replace him. Tu nodded. 10 hasn't been with us long, but he's decisive and relentless, and he's an excellent cultivator, too. He's got a lot of potential. The team leader smirked. Too much potential, actually. Tu darted a strange look at his captain. Was the guy threatened by the newcomer already? Feng Wu headed north after she left the temple. She had taken note of the direction 10 had headed in when the guy left earlier. Feng Wu had planned everything out from the very beginning. And everything was proceeding according to plan. She kept heading north. 10 knew how to track people, and so did Feng Wu. And she was unmatched in her counter-reconnaissance skills. 15 minutes later, Feng Wu spotted 10 in a valley. Crouching down next to a pile of snow, 10 was lost in thought. What's bothering you? Feng Wu patted him on the shoulder. 10 threw a dirty look at 5, then went back to his pondering. Got a lead? Feng Wu sat down with her legs crossed and asked in a casual tone. 10 ignored her. Captain wants you back. The meal's ready. You coming? Feng Wu mimicked the way 5 spoke, and she was doing an excellent job. She could fool just about anyone. It's strange. Finally, 10 began to speak. How so? The track stops here, 10 said to himself. Feng Wu was here and I can detect her scent. But where did she go? She ran away, no? But in which direction? I can only find traces of her coming here, but not. I see. 10 smacked his thigh. She went back. She doubled back to the temple. Feng Wu's hiding in the temple, HNGH. Before 10 could finish what he wanted to say, a sword pierced through his chest. It went in through his back and came out through his rib. Blood dripped from the tip of the cold blade. The pain was excruciating. 10 desperately tried to turn his head. But whoosh! The sword twisted in his chest. It hurt. You, 10 cried out in disbelief as blood gushed out of his mouth. Drawing back her flaming sword, Feng Wu watched as 10 fell to the ground. She smiled a little. 10 struggled to speak. Feng Wu. You're very smart. But it's too late for you. Feng Wu darted a glance at him. 10 was overwhelmed with emotions. After searching for Feng Wu for 3 days, he had finally found her, among the team members. What would happen to the team now that he was gone? 10 found the idea horrifying. However, there was nothing he could do now. His life had come to an end. Feng Wu darted another look at the dead body, then began to smear 10's blood all over herself. By then, the team leader and 2 had probably finished their meal, so Feng Wu began to run toward the temple. Captain! 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 The faint panic in her voice carried very far in the wind. The team leader and 2 were talking about Feng Wu, and they rushed out as soon as they heard her shouts. Thump! Feng Wu fell to the ground and rolled around in the snow. It looked like she was barely breathing. 797 one at a time. The team leader rushed over to 5 with a frown. Feng Wu's acting was very convincing. The team leader was about to check her pulse when she gripped his hand. I'm all right. Go help. 10. Quickly. Her cover would be blown if he checked her pulse now. 10. The team leader's pupils contracted. He then dashed off in the direction Feng Wu had pointed in. He called over his shoulder, 2, look after 5. 2 took Feng Wu's hand after the team leader left. Let me have a look. He immediately realized that something wasn't right. The hand was too smooth and too fair. It looked like a girl's hand. Why would 5? Wait. The idea had only just struck 2 when a dagger was buried in his chest. Thud! The blade pierced his heart and the tip came out of his back. 2 stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Thump! He struck down at Feng Wu. A dying strike could be lethal. Luckily, Feng Wu was prepared. She had fled the other way as soon as she stabbed the guy. 2 missed his target and his palm landed on the ground. The impact created a deep pit in the ground. By then, Feng Wu had gone round behind 2, and she kicked him into the pit he had created himself. Thump! Feng Wu pulled out the dagger, the blood was everywhere. You're... Feng Wu. 2 was anything but dumb, and he saw the light right away. Feng Wu grinned. Those were 10's last words, too. 10. 10. Yes, I've killed him, too. Feng Wu smiled at him. Feng Wu had nothing against these people, but they were trying to kill her for money. She would be the dead one if she didn't strike first. 2 looked despairing. He had never expected that a simple task like this would get him killed. He died shortly afterward. Feng Wu filled the pit with snow. The team leader was the only one left in this group. That guy was a very capable cultivator. Feng Wu couldn't tell exactly what his level was, but she knew that she wouldn't be able to beat him even if she made it to level 6. Although she had poisoned the firewood, judging from the team leader's movements, the poison hadn't taken effect yet. If she tried to take him out now, Feng Wu would be the one who was killed. 5. The team leader returned with 10's dead body over his shoulder. Seeing 5 on the ground, he rushed over and tried to shake him awake. Feng Wu thought she was going to have a concussion from all the shaking when she opened her eyes. Captain! Where's 2? Isn't he with you? Feng Wu. Feng Wu ambushed us. 2 went after her. Feng Wu slowly rose to her feet, swaying a little. How are you doing? The team leader looked pissed. 10, the scout, had been killed. It was only natural that he was displeased. I'll survive. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. She couldn't afford to act too weak now. Her cover would be blown if the team leader checked her pulse. The team leader nodded. Where did they go? Over there, Feng Wu pointed to the west. Feng Wu was injured and we knew right away that she wouldn't get very far. That was why 2 went after her. I think we'll hear good news very soon. 798 gone. The team leader frowned. Take 10's body into the temple. I'll go find them. He dashed off after that. Watching the team leader leave, Feng Wu smiled a little. The team leader pursued with caution, but he couldn't see Tu or Feng Wu anywhere. This wasn't right. Wasn't Feng Wu supposed to be badly injured? Catching up with her should be a piece of cake, but where was she? The more he thought about it, the more doubtful he felt. He turned around and headed back. The temple was dead silent and he didn't hear a thing. The team leader walked in to find 10's body on the ground, but where did 5 go? 5? 5, he called out with a frown. But 5 didn't show, no matter how loud his voice was. That was strange. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was lying in a snow pit, waiting for the poison to take effect. She wouldn't be able to beat the team leader if she confronted him now. Her best option was to stay put and let the poison do its work. But there was one thing Feng Wu hadn't taken into consideration. The team leader was more cautious than she had anticipated. After all, he was the team leader of Blade, which was proof enough of his intelligence. He looked back on what had happened so far, from 10 leaving and 5 searching for the guy, to 10's death and 2's disappearance. Then, something just didn't feel right. What was it? The hands. The team leader swayed a little. There were old scars on 5's hands, but when 5 grabbed his hand and told him what happened to 10, those hands didn't have a mark on them. That wasn't right. When had this feeling started? After 5 went out to fetch the meat. At that thought, the team leader felt all the blood rush to his head and his mind went blank for a second. This was bad, really bad. He forced himself to calm down, then drew out his sword and scanned the entire area around the temple with his spiritual essence. It was a very energy-consuming move, but that was the last thing on his mind. He sensed something abnormal under a pile of snow by the wall. He threw his sword in that direction. Thud! Fueled by spiritual essence, the blade pierced all the way into the snow pile, the hilt included. The team leader grinned grimly. He jumped over to the pile of snow and dragged the person out. Feng Wu. There you are. However, his pupils contracted when he saw the person's face. It wasn't Feng Wu. As the leader of the team, he had seen 5 without the mask on. Right now, his sword had pierced 5 through the heart. The team leader was speechless. He killed 5? He was completely baffled. Poor man. He couldn't have expected Feng Wu to put 5 back into his outfit already. This was why she had only knocked 5 out instead of killing him right away. As expected, the team leader walked into the trap. Staring at 5, whom he had killed, the team leader thought he was going to pass out. 5 hadn't been replaced. That was to say, he had gotten everything wrong. What was going on here? Feng Wu's interwoven stratagems successfully befuddled the team leader. All of a sudden, he gripped his chest as he felt a throbbing pain in his heart. That was... The team leader's face turned livid. He realized right away that he had been poisoned. Shit! Although he didn't know what it was, he didn't let his guard down. Leaping into the air, he jumped out of the window as swiftly as a swallow. He then dashed off and was soon out of sight. Feng Wu was speechless. 799 run. He ran away. Just like that? Feng Wu was baffled. She didn't expect the team leader to bolt. She had set up a series of traps and gadgets in the temple, which had taken her quite a while, but her target had run off without triggering any of them. The guy didn't become the leader of Blade for nothing. He's really cautious. Feng Wu shook her head regretfully. However, he had been poisoned and wouldn't be able to run very far. After the miserable pursuit she had endured, it was finally time for Feng Wu to strike back. Hence, Feng Wu left quickly and went after the team leader. The team leader struggled to keep moving forward. He had realized by now that 2, 5, and 10 were all dead and he was the only one left in his group. It just so happened that he had been poisoned. That toxin. The moment he thought about it, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. This wasn't good at all. That abominable girl. The team leader gritted his teeth, wanting to cut Feng Wu into little pieces. However, there wasn't anything he could do at the moment except get back to his other team members as soon as possible. Luckily, they had a special means of communication, and they roughly knew where the other team members were. The team had split into 3 groups. 2, 5, and 10 headed north. 3, 6, and 9 headed south. 4, 7, and 8 headed west. The other 2 groups were all that was left of Blade. The team couldn't afford to lose any more members and had to stick together. The team leader sent out a distress signal. A distress signal? 3 was the head of the team heading south, and his stomach lurched when he received the signal. He confirmed it with the other 2 members. Did you receive that? Captain's distress signal? Yes. I think he might have run into the real Feng Wu. But we've almost caught up to our target. Are we going to give up now? You idiot. There's only one Feng Wu, and if Captain has found the real one, then we're running after a fake one. Right. Enough with your right. Get back to Captain already. The group gathered together and headed north. Meanwhile, the group heading west received the same signal. Captain's distress signal. He's the most powerful cultivator of us all. How? Something must be terribly wrong. Quick, let's go back to the rendezvous point. Where's that? Captain said to meet him where the Qilin Beast and Ice Fire Beast fought. Quickly. The group in the south gave up on chasing Little Phoenix. And the group in the west stopped pursuing the cub. Both groups headed for the place where the Qilin Beast and Ice Fire Beast fought each other to death, for that was where the 3 routes met. Feng Wu tailed the team leader and kept her distance. Judging by the direction he was heading in, she knew what he was up to right away. Just then Feng Wu heard Little Phoenix's voice in her head. They're heading back. They're coming your way. Little Feng Wu, they must have realized you're the real one and they're coming for you. Run. Meanwhile, the cub's voice joined in. Roar, they left. As her spiritual pets, Little Phoenix and the cub could both send her telepathic messages, as long as they weren't too far apart. An idea struck Feng Wu. They have to meet up where the Qilin Beast and Ice Fire Beast died. Follow them, but don't get too close. 800 now or never. What about you? Are you going to die? Little Phoenix and the cub's voices were full of concern. Staring at a big blue dot on the map, Feng Wu smiled enigmatically. I have an idea. As the team leader ran off, Feng Wu doubled back and headed the other way. Toward a blue dot. If she had guessed right, that represented a magical beast. And the size of the dot indicated how capable it was. However, why would such a capable magical beast enter Zone 2? What was it looking for? Its cub, perhaps? The dot wasn't too far away and Feng Wu quickly headed its way. In less than 15 minutes, Feng Wu was less than 1 kilometer away from the blue dot. She hid under a pile of snow and looked out through a little hole. She saw a giant Qilin beast. It was covered in ice and its scales glittered in the light. The look in its eyes was sharp, murderous, and ferocious. And anxious. This Qilin beast looked a lot like the dead Qilin beast cub. It snuffled around with a frown. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. If she had guessed correctly, this Qilin beast was looking for that cub. An idea struck Feng Wu when she realized that. Members of Blade were heading for the rendezvous point. She wouldn't have gotten this idea if they were going somewhere else. However, they had picked that spot, which gave Feng Wu a lot of room to maneuver. The Qilin beast followed the scent as it searched for its cub. Feng Wu estimated that it would reach the spot where its kid died in 2 hours. After the Qilin beast left, Feng Wu quickly jumped out of the snow and headed for the rendezvous point via another route. She needed to make some preparations in order to make use of that beast. If she did it right, she would be able to get rid of all of Blade in one go. They had already learned that she had regained her abilities. If she let them leave alive, they would inform the Zwa family, and when that happened, she would have to face a lot more than just a team of hitmen. All her worst fears would come true. Therefore, every single member of Blade had to die. She couldn't afford any mistakes. Feng Wu outlined her plan on her way to the rendezvous point, and it was a complicated, interconnected stratagem. An hour later, the team leader was the first to arrive. The journey here had exhausted him. His legs gave out and he fell onto a pile of snow, panting loudly. He found the mask too suffocating and he was having a hard time breathing, so he ripped the black cloth off his face. His face had turned a bluish color and was speckled all over, which was a terrifying look that reminded one of livor mortis. The team leader struggled to breathe. Wrapping his hands around his throat, he tried to throw up, but couldn't. Darkness filled his vision. Just when he thought he was going to pass out, the group from the south was the first to arrive. Captain! Captain! 3 was the leader of the group and he led 6 and 9 back in a hurry. Captain! What happened? Why did you take off your mask? 3 put the mask back on his leader. After all, hitmen like them weren't supposed to show their faces to anyone. 8:01 Dawn, chase me. The families of their victims might try to take revenge if they knew what the hitmen looked like. Moreover, Imperial College's system was monitoring all candidates, and Blade could be spotted at any moment. The team leader took a deep breath, then said in broken words, "You, kill Feng Wu." 3 cried out in surprise, "Captain, did you run into Feng Wu? Where are the others? Where are 2, 5, and 10? 10 had been leading the team this whole time and everyone trusted him. Dead, they're all dead. What? The South group was baffled. How? Their captain was poisoned, and 2, 5, and 10 were all dead. Did Feng Wu do this? Is that girl even human? How is that even possible? They couldn't believe their ears. The team leader took a deep breath, trying to clear his mind. It was such a long story, and revealing the truth would only make them look incompetent, so the team leader decided to keep it to himself. With a wave of his hand, he said to 3, "You must be careful. That girl is so cunning. Captain, have you been poisoned? Let's wait until everyone's here. She won't be able to trick all of us, no matter how cunning she is. Captain, get some rest. Let's work on the antidote first." The others agreed with 3. Before long, the West group joined them. Blade was still a capable team, for most of its members were still alive. The team leader, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9 were all alive. And everyone except for the team leader were still in good condition. Feng Wu would have no hope if they spotted her. All of a sudden, what's that? 4, the most sharp-eyed among them all, spotted a shadow in the snow, and he jumped to his feet. Feng Wu had hidden under the snow once before, and he was alarmed right away. Seeing 4 come at her like a ferocious tiger, Feng Wu jumped out and bolted. That astonished everyone. Oh God, that's Feng Wu. That's really her. Go get her. Feng Wu. She didn't run away. She was right here. She killed 2, 5, and 10. Get her and avenge them. The team members was shocked. They never expected Feng Wu to be this audacious. The team leader was furious. Catch her. You have to catch her. Hence, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9 all dashed off after Feng Wu. Feng Wu ran as fast as the wind. She warned the team members over her shoulder as she ran, "Don't chase me. I'm warning you. Stop chasing me." 3 smirked. "Don't chase you. You wish." 4 said, "Stop running now and I'll make it quick." Feng Wu rolled her eyes. "Quick or not, you're going to kill me. Stop right there." "I won't." "Stop." "I won't." 3 was speechless. Did the girl think they were making fun of her? This was a pursuit. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder as she ran. Stop chasing me already. You've been warned. You'll regret this. 3 found it preposterous. You brat. Is that what you want to say before you die? Feng Wu looked very innocent. I mean it. Don't chase me and stop right there. Otherwise, you'll be in a lot of trouble. 802 I see. Are you really not going to leave me alone? Feng Wu said in resignation. You brat. One of us has to die today, and it's going to be you. 3 couldn't understand what Feng Wu's nagging was about. The members of Blade ran very fast, and Feng Wu was slightly slower in comparison. Even if she was doing her best. Before long, she was surrounded by the team. The 6 men circled Feng Wu. And there was a ferocious look in their eyes. 3 grinned grimly. Kid, what did I tell you? Stop running. But you wouldn't listen. Here we are. 4 grinned ominously as well. What did you say would happen if we caught you? Do tell. You're all going to die, Feng Wu stared at them and said in a calm voice. Ha ha ha. The hitmen guffawed. That was the most ridiculous thing they had ever heard. We've surrounded you and we're going to die. Are you an idiot or what? 3, cut the crap. Get the antidote from her. Yes. 3 rushed over to Feng Wu's side and grabbed her by the arm. He hesitated for a brief moment when he took her arm. This was much easier than he had expected. This girl had poisoned their team leader and killed 2, 5, and 10. She should be very difficult to catch, but he caught her. Just like that. 3 caught her. The others closed in right away. However, just then, blood poured down on their heads. It happened too suddenly. And they didn't have enough time to react. 3, 4, 6, all 6 men more or less had some blood on them. 3 had it the worst. Being the closest to Feng Wu, he got most of the blood over him. It was all over his head, his face, and his clothes. His face looked as if someone had painted it red. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. What the hell? The blood is poisonous. 3 and the others jumped backward at that thought. They still circled Feng Wu, but not as close as before. Everyone glared at Feng Wu, but they looked hesitant as well. It's not poisonous, but... But what? But it's worse than poison. Feng Wu grinned. 3 narrowed his eyes. What blood is it? Just then, Feng cried out, isn't this Qilin beast's blood? Can you feel the dense spiritual essence? 6 said, gosh, I suddenly have the urge to make a breakthrough. Am I the only one? No, you're not. I have the same urge. They exchanged looks of amazement. They thought that Feng Wu had poisoned them. However, she offered them something that would benefit their cultivation. I see. Feng cried out. 803 Abandon hope. Feng cried out, I see. Feng Wu is trying to distract us with bribery. That way, we'll be busy cultivating and won't have time to go after her. He then stared at Feng Wu. You brat. Am I right? Feng Wu only smiled at him without saying a word. That only made Feng more certain of himself. He turned to his teammates. I was right. That's her plan. 3 stared at Feng Wu. He didn't think it could be that simple. Feng Wu looked too sure of herself. And she shouldn't be. She should look flustered and perplexed, and should be shaking all over. However, her eyes were twinkling, as if victory lay within her grasp and she was planning how to celebrate. What on earth are you trying to do? The more 3 thought about it, the more disturbed he became. Instead of answering him, Feng Wu looked around at the team and said, you don't get a chance to level up every day. Are you sure you're going to waste this opportunity? You can kill me any time you want, But I can't say the same about making a breakthrough. 4 and the others exchanged hesitant looks. 3 bellowed, "What are you all waiting for? Have you forgotten how cunning this girl is? Kill her." The team leader wasn't here and 2 was dead, which made 3 the one who called the shots. Instantly, everyone charged at Feng Wu in unison. Feng Wu spun, then jumped out of the circle. "You're not going anywhere." 3 bellowed. He knew it. The girl was bluffing. The hell with not chasing her and the consequences. She had made everything up. "I mean it. You'll regret chasing me in a moment." Feng Wu shouted as she ran. "Ha!" 3 and the others couldn't be bothered to talk back anymore. The only thing they could think of now was catching up to Feng Wu, then kill her. Feng Wu thought to herself as she ran, "Where is that Qilin beast? With its keen nose, it should have picked up the scent of the cub's blood and caught up with them by now." Thump. 3 ran the fastest and he struck out at Feng Wu from behind with a fist. Thump. He was much more capable than Feng Wu. As a matter of fact, any individual of Blade was a more advanced cultivator than she was. The impact sent Feng Wu flying forward. Thump. Her body arced in the air and she flew over a low hill before falling into a pile of snow on the other side. Feng Wu spat out a mouthful of blood. That 3 was such a formidable hitman. Feng Wu rubbed her back. If she hadn't dodged in time to protect her main organs or had failed to make good use of the momentum to quickly move forward, she would probably be dead by now. "Dear Qilin beast, show up now, or I'll really be killed." 3 and the others caught up to Feng Wu before she was out of the pit. "You brat! This is your last day on Earth." 3's sword glinted in the sun. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She had done all she could to stall, but apparently, she needed to stall for a bit longer. "Did the Zhou family send you?" Feng Wu stared at them with piercing eyes. But 3 didn't want to give her an answer. "If you're going to kill me, at least tell me what I'm going to be killed for." "The Zhou family sent you, didn't they?" Feng Wu glared at them. 3 smirked. "You really want to know?" 804 You, not getting away. Feng Wu nodded, the look on her face very serious. "Just tell me. Yes or no." 3 snorted. "I don't care how you want to die. There's no way I'm going to leak my client's information." "You're so naive. Die." Just as 3 snarled and leapt up. All of a sudden, something bellowed a short distance away. It was a blood-curdling sound. And the thing making that noise sounded furious. It was ready to kill. Instantly, everyone turned around involuntarily. A powerful magical beast was running wildly in their direction. And there was a murderous air around it which they could sense even at a distance. The beast was coming right at them. No! It's a Qilin beast. And a fully grown one. Is it coming for Feng Wu? I think so. It's going to kill Feng Wu. We better get out of the way. Wait. No one had seen it coming, but that Qilin beast caught up with them and jumped at 9. Whoosh! It raised both front paws and slashed down at 9. Poor 9. He was torn in half before he saw it coming. That shocked everyone. What the heck? Wasn't the Qilin beast after Feng Wu? Why had one of them been killed? What did they do? Shit! 3 then remembered the blood on them and he panicked. The blood! We're covered in the blood of its cub. That answered the question for everyone. It was Feng Wu. She had splashed the blood all over them. For had been so confident and claimed that Feng Wu did it so that they would be busy cultivating instead of chasing her. Only then did they realize what Feng Wu really had in mind. She had been waiting for this moment. Gritting his teeth, 3 yelled at the Qilin beast, "Feng Wu killed your cub. We have nothing to do with it. She's the one." However, when 3 pointed at the spot where he thought Feng Wu was nowhere to be found. Feng Wu! 3 bellowed. She did this on purpose. She had lured the Qilin beast here. No wonder she had been yelling about not chasing her. This was why. Feng Wu, that cunning girl. Thump. The Qilin beast couldn't care less about the grudges between these human beings. The blood was the only thing it could think of. A Qilin beast's blood. The amount suggested that its cub was already dead. These stupid, abominable humans had killed it. How dare you hurt my child? How dare you? The look on the Qilin beast's face was ferocious as it spoke in a deep, murderous voice. No, we didn't. It wasn't us. 3 tried to explain, but his words were futile. They were covered in the cub's blood, which was irrefutable evidence. Nothing he said could exonerate them. Thump. As expected, the Qilin beast ignored what 3 said. It raised a front paw and smacked 7 to the ground. 4 glared at the Qilin beast with utter hatred when he saw that half of 7's face was gone. He then shouted at his remaining teammates, "It already believes that we killed its cub, and we can't change its mind. We need to fight it together." Although they didn't want to, the others had to admit that this was the reality they had to face now. "We can still run." "No, we've been marked by the Qilin beast," 3 said in a terrifyingly calm voice. "Once marked, we'll never be able to get out of Proud Snowfield alive. It'll hunt us down one by one." 805 You, going to die? Since they couldn't run, there was only one option left. 3 ground his teeth. "We have to kill this Qilin beast. The beast and them, only one side could live. Where's Feng Wu?" 4 gritted his teeth. After luring the Qilin beast here, the girl just disappeared. She's gone. Everyone was speechless. As a matter of fact, Feng Wu hadn't run off. She was hiding in a pile of snow a short distance away. She had no blood on her and wasn't marked. She could leave whenever she wanted. Roar! The Qilin beast growled, then quickened its steps. 3 said, "Everyone, together." Thump! 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 It was a fierce battle. Before long, blood was everywhere. The members wanted to fight against the beast together, but when the actual fight started, it was like an inexorable landslide. They stopped trying once they saw that death was inevitable. Instead, they turned to flee. 3 headed east, 4 west, 6 north, and 7. Everyone picked a different direction and they ran as fast as they could. For it could be the last time they would ever be able to run in their lives. They knew perfectly well that they had been marked by the Qilin beast, but they wouldn't give up hope just like that. Even if they had to die, they had to take Feng Wu down with them. Whoosh! Feng Wu saw the Qilin beast pounce at 6 from behind. She smiled a little. They wanted to kill her. Sorry about that, but she wasn't that easy to kill. Feng Wu knew that with the Qilin beast's speed and capabilities, it wouldn't be long before 4 and 3 met their ends. However, there was one more person left, the team leader. He had stayed behind because of the poison and he hadn't been tainted by the cub's blood. So Feng Wu strolled off and arrived at the rendezvous point a few moments later. The team leader was no longer there. "Do you really think you can run from me?" Feng Wu smiled a little. "Ah," the tiger cub waved its paws. It then spoke to Feng Wu in her head. "I know where he is." I know. Feng Wu waved her hand. "Let's go." "Yes." Feng Tutu darted off right away. This trip to Proud Snowfield had benefited Feng Tutu greatly. Speed had always been its forte, and it was now quicker than a streak of lightning. Even Feng Wu had a hard time keeping up with it. Before long, she saw a figure up ahead. It was the team leader of Blade. In front of him was a frozen river. Sensing the hostility, he turned around to find Feng Wu behind him. He frowned. "Feng Wu. Staring at Feng Wu, the team leader had a murderous look on his face. Feng Wu stopped when she was 10 meters away and smiled at the guy. That's me. Overwhelmed by hatred, the team leader wanted to tear Feng Wu to pieces. You killed 2, 5 and 10. Feng Wu nodded. And you poisoned me. Feng Wu nodded again. Seeing the unperturbed look on Feng Wu's face, the team leader was furious. You're very calm, but you're going to die. Is that so? Crossing her arms, Feng Wu darted an unhurried look at the team leader. There are 10 of us. You killed 3, but there are 7 more. Oh, do you mean the dead bodies of 3, 4, and the others? Feng Wu asked casually. 806 dead. Dead bodies? His face turned livid. What did you say? Feng Wu smiled. Captain, do you really need me to repeat it? You. The team leader's gaze was sharper than a blade. His face looked stiff and he looked as if he was going to throw up. What did you do to them? Nothing. Feng Wu smiled. The Qilin beast is eating them up as we speak. Qilin beast? Isn't it dead? The team leader frowned. Well, the dead one was a cub, and its dad is here now. But they didn't kill the cub. Feng Wu nodded. I know. Why? Too bad. They were covered in the cub's blood. Feng Wu shrugged. The cub's blood? The team leader then remembered something. That was it. That was why the burnt corpse of the cub looked strangely shriveled, so much so that he hadn't been able to draw any blood. Feng Wu had drained it already. You took its blood, then? Yes. You. The team leader stared at Feng Wu, as if he was seeing a ghost. That was to say, she had planned everything from the very start. Was she even human? How could anyone be this scheming? The team leader could taste blood in his mouth. He glared at Feng Wu, but was unable to utter a word. Feng Wu smiled. Do you know why I told you that? Why? Because you deserve to know why you're going to die. After that, with a wave of Feng Wu's hand, a bottle landed at the team leader's feet. Feng Wu smiled. I put your antidote in the blood of that Qilin beast. She was giving him a choice. The blood could neutralize the poison, but it would draw the parent Qilin beast here. Your choice. Feng Wu waved at him, then left with a grin. What? The team leader stood there, utterly befuddled. He couldn't believe how evil the girl was. To use the blood or not, that was the question. If he didn't use it, he would die from the poison, but if he drank it, that Qilin beast would be after him for revenge. What should he do? In the end, the team leader decided that he would use it. For once the poison was neutralized, he still had a chance to get out of here alive, as long as he could survive the next 3 days. At that thought, he found a snow pit to hide in, then downed the blood in one go. Gurgled out as soon as he swallowed the blood, spiritual essence erupted like a volcano. It quickly ran through all his energy channels. How terrifying this power was! The spiritual essence was so dense. Instantly, the team leader felt the urge to break through to the next level. He needed the extra strength now more than ever, and he began to work on it right away. But the Qilin beast had killed off almost all the members of Blade. 9 and 8 were killed. Followed by 6 and 7. 4 died after that. So did 3. However, that wasn't enough for the Qilin beast to vent its anger. It sniffed the air again. It could still detect the scent of its cub's blood. Following the scent, Qilin beast headed for the frozen river. 8070, no. The team leader was thrilled. He was going to make a breakthrough very soon. After that, he would be able to get out of here. And then, just when he was overwhelmed with joy, smack. A giant paw landed in front of him. A shadow then blocked his field of vision. The team leader looked up at the Qilin beast in disbelief. You! Have you seen my child? The beast said in human language. At the Qilin beast's level, it had enough spirituality to speak the common language that human beings used on this continent. And no, the team leader shook his head repeatedly. No? Qilin beast smacked the team leader in the head. The team leader was dazed by the impact and he could see stars. The next moment, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Because he drank the Qilin blood, this parent Qilin beast hadn't been able to sense anything on him. It was only here to ask around, but it then saw the blood. It had a scent unique to Qilin beasts. Qilin beast raised a front paw and stared at the team leader in disbelief. The team leader was stupefied. The Qilin beast's face turned livid. You killed my child. It stared at the team leader with a murderous look in its eyes. The beast had its own line of thinking. The human beings it had killed earlier were no match for its child. Therefore, those people had to have a leader. And the leader was right here in front of it. How dare you? Die! Thump! 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 A fight broke out between the beast and the man. Hiding in a snow pit a short distance away, Feng Wu watched the battle in trepidation. Luckily, she had found the team leader as a scapegoat. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to handle this Qilin beast all by herself. It wasn't me. I didn't kill your child. It was Feng Wu. In that moment of life and death, the team leader cast his work ethic aside and sold Feng Wu out without hesitation. Who's Feng Wu? The Qilin beast frowned. She's a teenage human girl and the team leader then described what Feng Wu looked like. He insisted, she was the one who murdered your child. I swear. Thump. The Qilin beast smacked the team leader's head again. A teenage human girl in a red robe? Yes, that's right, that stupid girl did it. The team leader went on, she gave me the blood and she killed your child. Shall I take you to her? Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Shit. If the Qilin beast marked her as a target, she wouldn't be able to go anywhere in the next 3 days. Right at that moment. Fool. Qilin beast smashed down on the team leader's chest. The team leader stared at the Qilin beast in disbelief. He had told the truth. That girl is a mere level 5 spiritual grandmaster. How could she have killed my child? The Qilin beast found this human being abominable. Not only did he kill its child, he had also tried to put the blame on another person. You're going to die a miserable death. The Qilin beast gave its verdict. Once the team leader was dead, Feng Wu took a deep breath, then turned to leave. However, at that moment, where do you think you're going? A deep voice rang out behind Feng Wu. Feng Wu shuddered. Seriously? That Qilin beast again? Had it found out that its cub had been? Feng Wu bolted. However, she was only able to take a few steps before the Qilin beast grabbed the back of her collar and picked her up like a chicken. 808 Feng Wu is in trouble. Feng Wu. A teenage human girl in a red robe, the Qilin beast said in an affirmative voice. Shit. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. What the team leader had said worked. The Qilin beast had decided to kill all possible suspects without even bothering to try and verify their innocence. Turning around, Feng Wu looked up at the Qilin beast with an innocent look on her face. Qilin beast snorted. Why aren't you trying to run away? Feng Wu said innocently, why should I run? You had nothing to do with the death of my child. No. I swear. I had nothing to do with it. Feng Wu raised both hands to prove her innocence. Qilin beast snorted, then took off with Feng Wu. Hey, hey! Where are you taking me? Hello, Feng Wu cried out in despair. Meanwhile, in front of the screen. After making sure that there weren't any outsiders, Grand Secretary Feng finally switched the camera back to Feng Wu. And he blanched as soon as he saw what was happening. Feng Wu had been picked up by a powerful Qilin beast. And it was between Zone 2 and Zone 1. That was to say, this Qilin beast was a spiritual elder at least. Xiao Wu has been captured by that thing. Priest Wu stared at the screen, his eyes popping out. That's not good at all. Grand Secretary Feng agreed with Priest Wu. Things were getting out of hand. Back in the snowfield, what do you want from me? Feng Wu stared at the Qilin beast in trepidation. Throwing Feng Wu on its back, the Qilin beast dashed off at lightning speed. There was nothing to block her on the beast's back, so Feng Wu wanted to jump off from there. To her amazement, she was stopped by a force resembling a magnetic field, which surrounded her. She couldn't find any opening in it. She had no way to escape. In front of the screen, Grand Secretary Feng's and Priest Wu's faces looked very grim. Grand Secretary Feng said, "Oh God, the Qilin beast is taking Xiao Wu back to its nest." Priest Wu asked, "But why? Does it want her as its wife?" Grand Secretary Feng wanted to smack Priest Wu on the head. "If I'm guessing right, it needs her as a blood sacrifice," said Grand Secretary Feng after a brief moment of silence. A blood sacrifice? That Qilin beast talked about a dead cub, and Qilin beasts have a special skill. Grand Secretary Feng stared at Priest Wu. They can summon the soul of a dead cub and insert it into a human body, if that body is compatible with the soul. Priest Wu blanched. What happens after that? After that, the cub and Xiao Wu will compete over her body, but do you think the Qilin beast will let Xiao Wu win? Grand Secretary Feng's voice trembled. Where did you learn such things? Priest Wu asked in bewilderment. Because I know a person who once provoked a Qilin beast, who almost. Grand Secretary Feng took a deep breath. No, this can't wait any longer. I'm going to court now. The terrain could only be reopened with Emperor Wu's consent. Otherwise, even Grand Secretary Feng, head of Imperial College, didn't have the authority to change the rules. Grand Secretary Feng went to court in a hurry. In the Imperial Palace. Feng had gone to the Empress Dowager to pick something up for Jun Linyuan, and he ran into Grand Secretary Feng on his way back. He recalled that Grand Secretary Feng had mentioned some abnormal activity during the physical tryout. Little Feng Wu was in that terrain at the moment, and His Royal Highness was all about Feng Wu's safety. Grand Secretary Feng. Feng greeted the old man. Grand Secretary Feng almost jumped when he saw Feng. "809 His Royal Highness." As His Royal Highness's closest servant, Feng had always kept his distance from other people. Why would he greet Grand Secretary Feng now? But Grand Secretary Feng had no time for small talk at the moment. He greeted Feng with a nod, then continued toward the Imperial Palace. But Feng wouldn't let him go just like that. "Is there a problem with the physical tryout?" Feng asked the question in a casual tone. Grand Secretary Feng didn't want to tell him at first, but he then realized that Feng represented Jun Linyuan, and if Jun Linyuan wanted to know something, even His Majesty wouldn't be able to keep it from him. Grand Secretary Feng sighed in resignation. Xiao Wu is in trouble. I need to talk to His Majesty now. Xiao Wu? Feng's worst fears had just come true. It really was about little Feng Wu. Feng rubbed his forehead as he watched Grand Secretary Feng leave in a hurry. The Crown Prince's residence. Jun Linyuan was drawing in his study. He was an excellent painter, and this painting had a swordplay manual hidden in it. Those who were able to comprehend the painting might be able to make a breakthrough in their cultivation. As it turned out, those paintings in World Tower really were his work. However, at that moment, the Crown Prince was very grumpy. Whoosh! A heavy stroke turned an autumn drizzle into a destructive storm. Such was the painting Feng saw when he entered the study. The mountain is filled with sword energy after an autumn rain. What a wonderful painting, Feng said with a smile as he crossed his hands behind his back. Jun Linyuan threw a dirty look at Feng. Then, with a wave of his hand, the painting was burnt to ashes. Shut up. Feng said, Your Royal Highness, actually. I said shut up. Are you deaf? Jun Linyuan was in a foul mood. Feng rubbed his nose and wanted to add something. Jun Linyuan glared at him. Out! Feng walked out of the room in resignation. Granny Gong rolled her eyes at Feng. You know what His Royal Highness has been like these days. Why did you do that? Crossing his hands behind his back, Feng feigned an indifferent voice. Sigh. It's just that I heard news about little Feng Wu from Imperial College. In the study, Jun Linyuan's grip tightened on the painting brush. Granny Gong was concerned. Miss Wu. What happened? Miss Wu is in big trouble. Feng said in a worried tone. What? Granny Gong cried out. Creak. The door opened and Jun Linyuan's cold voice rang out. Get your ass in here. Rubbing his nose, Feng gave Granny Gong a knowing look, smiled, then went into the study. What was all that about? Jun Linyuan went back to his painting, as if he couldn't care less. Feng sighed. It was Imperial College. Your Royal Highness, that's not your responsibility and really, there's nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about? Jun Linyuan stared at Feng, then tossed the paintbrush to the side. Spill it. Rubbing his nose, Feng chuckled inwardly, but still feigned a resigned look. There was a rumor before this that a frosty night beast was going to wake up in Proud Snowfield, the terrain which Imperial College chose this year. I know. Jun Linyuan frowned. But it hasn't yet. Feng nodded. Don't stop there. Jun Linyuan snapped. Feng had said something about little Feng Wu being in trouble, and that was all Jun Linyuan cared about. Feng went on, I ran into Grand Secretary Feng on my way back from the Imperial Palace. He seemed to be in a hurry, so I asked him about it. 810 Astonished. Then? Jun Linyuan frowned at Feng. According to Grand Secretary Feng, little Feng Wu has been abducted by a Qilin beast at the spiritual elder stage. It's going to draw her soul out of her body and replace it with the soul of its dead cub. The look on Jun Linyuan's face turned very grim. Tossing his drawing brush aside, he headed out right away. Just then, Feng Sun and Xian Yi arrived. Spotting Jun Linyuan, they grinned and were going to greet the guy when Jun Linyuan walked past them as if they weren't there. And he was walking way too fast. So fast that there was a sudden gust of wind. The wind almost threw Feng Sun and Xian Yi off their feet. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. They exchanged looks and were dumbfounded. Seeing Feng Sun went up to the old man in a hurry and stopped him. Feng, wait. Feng turned around and looked at the two teenagers. Feng Sun was at a loss. What's going on with Boss Jun? I never thought he could look so concerned, even if His Majesty was being forced to abdicate. Mind your language. Xian Yi glared at Feng Sun. Sorry, Feng Sun covered his mouth. Xian Yi looked at Feng. What happened? I've never seen him act that way. Feng Sun nodded. Neither have I. Feng said, something's wrong with Imperial College's physical tryout. That makes sense. Feng Sun interjected. The safety of 1,000 candidates is at stake, so no wonder Boss Jun. Wait, Boss Jun isn't the type to care about any candidate. Little Feng Wu, Xian Yi reminded him. Feng Sun smacked his own head and cried out, shit! I forgot about that. He grabbed Xian Yi's arm in alarm. My sister is one of the candidates. Feng Sun stopped trying to figure out why Jun Linyuan was acting strangely. All he could think of now was Feng Wu. Feng, is it true? Something's wrong with the physical tryout? Feng Sun blanched. Feng nodded. I heard the news from Grand Secretary Feng. Let's go. Feng Sun and Xian Yi headed for Imperial College right away. Feng had to remind them, Grand Secretary Feng has gone to court. Feng Sun and Xian Yi, who had jumped onto the wall, abruptly changed directions and headed for the Imperial Palace instead. At that moment, Grand Secretary Feng was the most reliable source of information. In the Imperial Palace. The Emperor's study. Emperor Wu frowned. "What did you say?" Grand Secretary Feng said in a serious tone, "Your Majesty, Feng Wu has been abducted by a Qilin beast." Emperor Wu said, "What are you suggesting?" Grand Secretary Feng didn't answer the question, but only went on stating the facts. That Qilin beast is going to use Feng Wu as a blood sacrifice. Emperor Wu said, "If I remember correctly, Qilin beasts are at the spiritual elder stage, and reside in Zone 1. Grand Secretary Feng said, "Yes." Then how did Feng Wu get involved with a Qilin beast? "I don't know, but she has, and she's going to be used as a blood sacrifice. That Qilin beast is going to put the soul of its cub into her body." Emperor Wu rose from his seat, crossed his hands behind his back, and walked back and forth in the study. "Are you saying that I should open up the terrain for Feng Wu alone?" Emperor Wu stared at Grand Secretary Feng in disbelief. Grand Secretary Feng said in a serious voice, "Your Majesty, the Frosty Night Beast is very likely about to wake up. If that happens, the lives of nearly 1,000 candidates will be in danger. I beseech you, Your Majesty, cancel the physical tryout. We can hold it again when the time is right." "811 not happening." Emperor Wu waved his hand. "I can't do that. Your Majesty." Emperor Wu stared at Grand Secretary Feng. "I've always had a high opinion of your selflessness and your service to the Empire. Now that you've retired from court and started working at Imperial College, I hope you can treat all the candidates equally." "Your Majesty," Grand Secretary Feng's face darkened. Feng Wu was a level 5 spiritual grandmaster at most, and she had provoked a spiritual elder Qilin beast, a creature that was a colossus to her. Why would happen to her now? She would be killed. Just then, footsteps came from outside. Jun Linyuan had been walking very fast, but he slowed down when he was 100 meters away from the study. Thump! The Crown Prince kicked open the door to the study. Emperor Wu and Grand Secretary Feng turned around in surprise. Someone had just kicked open the door to the Emperor's study. They had to have a death wish. A name then came to mind, Jun Linyuan. A towering figure then showed up in the doorway. It was a teenager. He made such a dashing figure. The sunlight poured in from behind him, creating a halo of light around his body. His aura was so dazzling that it was impossible to look away. Emperor Wu frowned involuntarily. "What are you doing here?" Emperor Wu didn't look very pleased. Jun Linyuan ignored his father and turned to Grand Secretary Feng. "Is something wrong with the physical tryout?" "Yes." Grand Secretary Feng gave a decisive answer without hesitation. Emperor Wu glared at Jun Linyuan. "Where did you get that information from?" Jun Linyuan darted a look at him. "None of your business." Emperor Wu flared up. "None of his business? All land under heaven. All land under heaven belongs to the Emperor, all within the land are the Emperor's servants. Is that what you want to say?" Jun Linyuan glanced at his father. "Have as many lands or servants as you want. Don't count me in." Blue veins popped on Emperor Wu's forehead. Grand Secretary Feng slowly moved away from the father and son. This was how they interacted on a daily basis. The last thing the old man wanted was to get in the middle. Jun Linyuan stared at Emperor Wu. "Reopen that terrain." "Forget it." Emperor Wu turned him down without hesitation. What was happening? The brat wanted to break the rules of the exam and call it off as soon as he heard about Feng Wu being in danger. Was he really interested in Feng Wu? At that thought, Emperor Wu frowned. Emperors were the most relentless people, and since Emperor Wu had decided not to marry Feng Wu to Jun Linyuan, he would do all he could to keep them apart. The longest distance was between a living and a dead person. "Forget it." Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. Emperor Wu smirked. It's an exam and all candidates should be treated equally. He went on in a righteous voice, there's danger in the physical tryout every year, and people get killed. All the candidates signed an agreement before they went in. If you interrupt the exam just because Feng Wu is in danger, what are you going to do next time? Are you going to do the same for other candidates? Emperor Wu stared at Jun Linyuan. Why are you so concerned about Feng Wu? Are you in love with her? Feng Sun and Xian Yi arrived in a hurry at that moment, and they heard the shocking question when they tried to catch their breaths outside the study. Boss Jun was in love with little Feng Wu. Jun Linyuan threw a dirty look at Emperor Wu. Are you out of your mind? Of course I'm not in love with her. '812 Crisis. He denied it. Taking Xian Yi's arm, Feng Sun heaved a sigh of relief. Oh God, for a moment there, I thought Boss Jun was going to admit that he was in love with little Feng Wu. What a shock. I'm so relieved now. But what if? Xian Yi darted a glance at Feng Sun with a smile. What if Boss Jun really is in love with little Feng Wu? What will you do then? Feng Sun looked befuddled, but he shook his head immediately. What are you talking about? Boss Jun will never be like that. That girl is a cripple. In the study. Emperor Wu glared at Jun Linyuan. What did you say? I dare you to say it again. Jun Linyuan smirked. Why should I? Just because you told me to. Are you kidding me? Emperor Wu didn't know what to say. Jun Linyuan was a man whose words carried weight, and Emperor Wu trusted his son. So, the brat really didn't have any feelings for little Feng Wu? But if that's the case, why are you so concerned about her? Emperor Wu stared at Jun Linyuan. The crown prince rolled his eyes at Emperor Wu. That frosty night beast is waking up. Did you miss that part? That was it. Jun Linyuan was concerned about that frosty night beast, not Feng Wu. At that thought, Emperor Wu's mood lifted. Just then hasty footsteps came from outside. They turned around to find Priest Wu at the door. The old man was walking very fast and he looked on edge. In proud snowfield. Trapped on the Qilin beast's back, there was nowhere for Feng Wu to run. She had a bad feeling about this. Something unpleasant was about to happen. Instead of killing her on the spot, the Qilin beast had only taken her captive. What did it want? Feng Wu couldn't for the life of her figure it out. She decided to put the question aside for the time being. Sitting down on the Qilin beast's back, she relaxed and began to cultivate. The Qilin beast moved swiftly across the snowfield. It ran as fast as lightning. An hour later, Feng Wu opened her eyes to see a big cave on the shady slope of a tall snow mountain a short distance away. The opening of the cave was wide enough for 50 people to walk in, shoulder to shoulder. So, that was probably the nest of this Qilin beast. Snow covered the ground outside the cave. Feng Wu's first impression when they entered the cave was that it was so cold inside. It was freezing. The bitter cold chilled her to the bone. Thump. Qilin beast threw Feng Wu onto the ground. Ouch! Feng Wu could have landed on her back, but in order to protect herself, she moved so that her bottom hit the ground first. The pain brought tears to her eyes. Feng Wu was then tossed into an area enclosed by a fence. That Qilin beast ignored her after that and went to cultivate on the other side. Feng Wu looked around her. The cave was spacious and she was imprisoned in the southeast corner. The fence was in fact a circle of obstacles made of spiritual essence. Seeing that the Qilin beast had entered a meditative state, Feng Wu rubbed her butt, then slowly rose to her feet. If she could somehow get out of this prison. Feng Wu touched the fence with a finger. Sizzled up, there was a flash of light and sparks flew in all directions. SSS. Feng Wu drew in her breath. That hurt. She looked down at her finger. She had touched the fence with her right index finger, which was burnt black as smoke rose from it. If she had been a little bit slower drawing back her finger, it would have been charred. Feng Wu took a deep breath, the look on her face full of frustration. 813 Predicamen. What should she do now? That Qilin beast had to have brought her here for a reason. Do you have a death wish? Feng Wu was still trying to get out of the fence when a cold voice rang out in the cave. Who was that? Feng Wu looked up to see a second Qilin beast. That was it. She had seen 3 blue dots on the map when she had chosen the Qilin beast cub. 2 big dots and a small one. The small one represented the cub, which made the 2 big ones its parents. Now that the father was cultivating, this Qilin beast which had just shown up had to be the mother Qilin beast. The mother stared at Feng Wu with bloodshot eyes. Feng Wu was a little uneasy. Although it was only natural selection and survival of the fittest, she had indeed used that cub for her own benefit. On second thought, Feng Wu realized that if she hadn't used that cub, the cub would have attacked her all the same, for it wanted her blood. So, she shouldn't be blamed. She only did what she needed to do in order to survive. Did you bring me here to drain my blood? Feng Wu was going to ask that question, but on second thought, she decided not to, for she didn't want to alert the couple to something that might not be part of their plan. While Feng Wu was fidgeting with all kinds of speculations, the mother Qilin beast smirked. I couldn't care less about your petty life, but your body has to stay unscratched. So sit your ass down. Feng Wu was confused. What did it mean by that? Why couldn't her body? Is that what you're after? My body? Feng Wu saw the light all of a sudden. The mother Qilin beast cast Feng Wu an indifferent glance. But why? What do you need it for? Feng Wu shrugged. Just then, Feng Wu sensed a sinister wind, and the temperature in the cave dropped even further. What's it doing? Feng Wu gestured at the father Qilin beast, intrigued. Summoning the soul. What soul? Feng Wu frowned. That ominous feeling was more oppressive now. The mother Qilin beast grew impatient with Feng Wu's questions, and it cut to the chase. There's going to be a blood sacrifice, and our baby is going to be reborn in your body. Feng Wu. What the heck? You can do that? Feng Wu stared at the mother. So, you're summoning the soul of your cub now? The mother Qilin beast nodded. Feng Wu. Shit. If the cub's soul really was summoned back and it told them what really happened, there was no chance of her surviving this. So please, don't let the cub's soul be summoned. Feng Wu grew anxious. The mother Qilin beast stared at Feng Wu, finding her behavior odd. If you had nothing to do with my child's death, why are you so nervous? Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She had everything to do with it. That cub had fallen into her trap. But she would never tell its parents that. Feng Wu reacted quickly. Am I going to die when its soul is summoned? Yes. Feng Wu said, but what if I don't want to die? The mother Qilin beast didn't even look at Feng Wu. To it, a level 5 spiritual grandmaster was so petty that it might as well be talking to an ant. Just then. "814 on edge." Feng Tutu gingerly said something in the ring. Actually. Its voice was so tiny that Feng Wu missed it at first. Actually. I swallowed its soul. What? Astonished, Feng Wu asked Feng Tutu immediately, what? What do you mean you swallowed its soul? I just saw this soul when I was sucking its spiritual essence, and I just swallowed it. Feng Tutu was so flustered that it was almost in tears. What should I do? What should I do? I've digested it already. I can't spit it out even if I wanted to. Feng Wu rejoiced. Luckily, the tiger cub had swallowed the soul of the Qilin cub. Otherwise, she would have no chance to escape if its parents really succeeded in summoning its soul. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu asked the mother Qilin beast, What if you can't summon the soul? You'll die with it then. The mother's voice was cold and emotionless. But I didn't kill it. Be reasonable. Be reasonable. A weakling like you doesn't have the right to ask for that. Don't make me laugh. You're no more than an ant and I can crush you with my heel at any time. The mother beast darted a contemptuous glance at Feng Wu, its eyes flickering. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. She had felt a little guilty for what she did to the cub, but after what its mother said, she no longer felt sorry for the cub. Although, she had learned something. This was a world ruled by the law of the jungle. The weak had no voice, and only the strongest had the right to speak. Meanwhile, blue smoke kept rising from the father Qilin beast's head. Cold sweat covered its forehead. The mother Qilin beast frowned at this. Without thinking, it went over to its husband to help in summoning the soul. However, time went by and nothing happened. That was impossible. The couple exchanged confused looks. All of a sudden, they turned to look at Feng Wu in unison. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. What did they want? All of a sudden, the father Qilin beast gave a wave of its front paw. Feng Wu was lifted out of the fence, and she flew toward the father beast at a tremendous speed. Thump! She fell on the ground with a thump, and the impact made her see stars. What do you want? Feng Wu stared at the two ferocious beasts. The beasts kept their faces straight. The next moment, the mother beast slashed Feng Wu's wrist open with its claws. Blood oozed out immediately. Feng Wu could almost hear a gurgling sound. Sit still. The mother beast pulled Feng Wu over so that she was sitting between the two beasts. The blood sacrifice will start now. Make any unnecessary movements and you will, in human terms, die a miserable death, your soul shattered into 1,000 pieces. Seeing her bleeding left wrist, Feng Wu was full of despair. She had lost a lot of blood fighting that ice fire beast earlier, and now a blood sacrifice. Her body wouldn't be able to take it. She tried to struggle, but she felt as if electricity was running through her body. Her pupils contracted and sweat covered her forehead. It was as if she was being stabbed by 1,000 needles. (815) Rescue. The two Qilin beasts would stop at nothing to save their cub's soul. However, Feng Tutu had devoured that soul and they would never be able to retrieve it. Wait! Feng Wu's stomach lurched. No. She panicked all of a sudden. For if the two beasts detected an abnormality in her blood, she would be caught red-handed. As more blood left her body, more spiritual essence dissipated into the air as well. Feng Tutu and Little Phoenix tried to leave the ring space, but Feng Wu stopped them by force. They would have no chance of escaping if they came out now. However, the pressure the two Qilin beasts put on her was so overbearing that Feng Wu couldn't take it anymore. She spat out a mouthful of blood. She wouldn't be so shocked if spitting out blood was the only thing that happened. Feng Wu realized in frustration that she was losing control of her soul. It was threatening to break free of her body. Feng Wu began to get a splitting headache and sweat trickled down her forehead. Her face was ghastly pale. All of a sudden, both Qilin beasts looked suspicious. Especially the father beast. It stared at Feng Wu with bloodthirsty eyes until they popped out. Because, why do you have my kid sent on you? The father beast stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. Shit! The mother beast then realized what that meant. It dragged Feng Wu to its side with an incredibly tight grip. It stared at Feng Wu with a deadly gaze. That's right. You smell of my child. Feng Wu wanted to scream. Her worst fear had just come true. The last thing she wanted was to get found out about that. Speak. The two Qilin beasts each took Feng Wu's arms and stared at her. Feng Wu thought her arms were going to be ripped off. Speak. Flames shot out of the mouth of one of the Qilin beasts. They hit Feng Wu and set her on fire. The fire seemed to have a mind of its own and it reached into Feng Wu's ring space right away. No! Feng Wu blanched. Her beautiful master was there. She could lose everything, but not her beautiful master. She wanted to speak, but was so overwhelmed by the beast's power that she couldn't utter a word. Even her soul shook in pain. Right at that moment. Thump! Little Phoenix and Feng Tutu fell out of her ring and rolled around on the ground. Both Qilin beasts had acute senses, and they reached for Feng Tutu immediately. For they sensed their cub on it. The father moved a little faster and it grabbed the tiger cub by the throat. Despite its advancement, the tiger cub was still a baby. It was defenseless in the Qilin beast's paw. My son! Sensing its kid on Feng Tutu, the mother beast was furious. It took Feng Tutu by the neck, turned it upside down so that its head was facing the ground, and tried to make Feng Tutu empty its stomach. Give me back my son! Give me back my son! With its thin neck in the mother beast's paw, Feng Tutu was drained of all color, and its pupils turned purple and began to dilate. Feng Wu could sense Feng Tutu's life slowly leaving its body. Run, now! The Crown Prince. Seeing Feng Wu just standing there, Feng Tutu prompted her through gritted teeth. The cub believed that she should get out of here while it had attracted the attention of the two Qilin beasts. Feng Wu might have a chance. But Feng Wu would never leave the cub behind. Thump! She stabbed the mother Qilin beast from behind with her flaming sword. But, to her frustration, Qilin beasts were too powerful for Feng Wu to handle, and she couldn't breach their defenses. She spared no effort in that strike, but she couldn't even make a cut in the mother beast's skin. The blade didn't even make a dent in its scales. And it bounced off with a metallic clank. Feng Wu's eyes were bloodshot red. The mother beast couldn't care less about Feng Wu at the moment, and it only waved a paw behind it. Thump! Feng Wu, who had snuck up on the mother beast from behind, was flung out right away. Thump! She smashed into a wall and her back made a loud thump. The thick, hard wall cracked from the impact. Feng Wu slid to the ground and was barely conscious. She spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Little Phoenix almost couldn't bring itself to see the state Feng Wu was in. That stupid woman. Was she seriously thinking about killing a Qilin beast? Didn't she know that they were spiritual elders? The beast was a whole stage more advanced than her. There was no way she could breach its defenses. Let's go. Little Phoenix's body instantly grew in size. It then picked up Feng Wu and rushed toward the cave opening. Feng Wu shook her head. Feng Tutu, we can't leave Feng Tutu behind. Little Phoenix was having a hard time keeping its balance with Feng Wu struggling in its claws. Exasperated, Little Phoenix scolded Feng Wu. You have this saying, as long as the green hills are there, one need not worry about firewood, right? You need to cherish your life so that you can take revenge for the cub in the future. No, Feng Wu shook her head repeatedly. She had never hated her lack of strength so much. If she were a spiritual elder now, she wouldn't have to watch Feng Tutu get throttled while she was helpless to do anything to help. Tears rolled down her cheeks and Feng Wu clenched her fists so tightly that her fingernails dug into her palms. I'm staying. You go. Feng Wu pulled Little Phoenix downward and both fell to the ground with a thump. Little Phoenix exploded. You stupid woman. Have you forgotten your mission? Your beautiful master will never be able to wake up if you die here. And what about your mother, your brother, and all the other people? Feng Wu smiled bitterly. I'm not going to die. After that, she forced Little Phoenix back into the ring. Then, she grabbed Feng Tutu. Both Qilin beasts went berserk. They struck at Feng Wu in unison. Two giant paws were aimed at Feng Wu's head. Feng Wu would be killed instantly if she got hit. At that critical moment, Feng Wu took out a jade ornament, aka the panic button. She thought she would never use it, but she was wrong. She had no choice but to give up on the exam. That was the only word Feng Wu was able to utter. All of a sudden, a gust of wind burst into the cave, bringing snow with it. The temperature in the cave plummeted. Feng Wu watched as the two formidable Qilin beasts froze into two ice sculptures. Then, their bodies gradually shattered into little pieces that rolled around on the ground. They had been turned into ice. Feng Wu was astonished. His Royal Highness. She couldn't believe her eyes. Those two Qilin beasts were invincible to her. She couldn't even make a dent in their scales. Then, they were. What was going on? Feng Wu was going to turn around and check the cave opening, when a chunk of ice dropped and hit her on the head. Thump! Feng Wu's head swam and she lost her balance. Her vision dimmed, and she gradually slipped into the dark of unconsciousness. When the wind stopped, a godlike figure landed at the cave opening. The teenager was dressed in white and looked rather dashing. He scanned the cave with his piercing gaze. One could tell at first glance that the person was very confident in his capability. It was none other than Jun Linyuan, the most powerful teenager in the empire. Crack. The two Qilin beasts had been doing as they pleased only moments ago, but they were defenseless in front of Jun Linyuan. Exactly how capable was he? The teenager rushed to Feng Wu's side before she hit the ground, and he pulled her soft body into his arms. Feng Wu was woken up by a strong light. She opened her eyes and was dazzled by the bright sunlight. "Sister, you're awake." Feng Sun rushed over and took Feng Wu's hand. He was over the moon. Feng Sun. Sitting up, Feng Wu rubbed her eyes and stared at the teenager in disbelief. "He shouldn't be here. What are you doing here?" Feng Wu was bewildered. "And he's not the only one," another Tianger chimed in with bright eyes. "Xianyi, you're here, too?" Feng Wu was even more confused. "Isn't the terrain open to candidates only? Why are you people here?" Feng Sun said grumpily, "Something big is happening here. Don't you know?" Feng Wu asked, "What thing?" "Those two Qilin beasts shouldn't have been here in the first place, not to mention they snatched you. And you came here because of that?" Feng Wu stared at Feng Sun. "I'm flattered." "Don't be. You're just lucky," said Feng Sun. "We wouldn't have come in if those two Qilin beasts were the only ones that woke up. That frosty night beast at the center of this terrain has also woken up." Something stirred inside Feng Wu. That frosty night beast had really woken up. She was thrilled. Other people might not have guessed it, but she knew perfectly well that Yu Minji was the only person who could have done it. Feng Wu needed to get the Heart of Frost essence from the frosty night beast to use as the core of her Tai formation. Hence, she had made a deal with Yu Minji before they entered the snowfield. She would make sure he passed the physical tryout, while he would help her obtain that Heart of Frosty essence. Thus, Feng Wu grabbed Feng Sun's sleeve anxiously. "What's going on with that frosty night beast?" Feng Sun snorted. "I heard that someone provoked that beast and woke it up. Of all the candidates this year, Yu Minji is the only one capable enough to do that." "Where's Yu Minji? How is he now?" Feng Wu asked hastily. Feng Sun snorted. "How is he? He's lucky to still be alive. As for what shape he's in, don't expect too much." "Why?" "Word on the street is that Imperial College has lost contact with him. I wonder if he's still alive." Feng Sun rubbed his chin. Feng Wu blanched. "That can't be. Yu Minji is quite capable." Feng Wu bit her lower lip. 818 Your Royal Highness, please dawn, be mad one. Feng Sun said grumpily, "I was just asking Boss Jun how confident he would be if he ran into that frosty night beast. Do you know what Boss Jun said?" "What?" Feng Wu grabbed Feng Sun's sleeve with wide-open eyes. Boss Jun said, if he ran into that frosty night beast. Before Feng Sun could finish his sentence. Thump. A fruit hit him in the forehead. Feng Sun flared up. Rubbing the spot on his forehead, he bellowed, who was that? How dare you? Feng Wu darted him several warning looks in a row. Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu. Sister, why are your eyelids twitching? Feng Sun turned around as he spoke. Holy shit! Feng Sun stared at the teenager behind him in disbelief. Boss Jun. He was almost scared to tears. Jun Linyuan looked past him and his gaze landed on Feng Wu. He frowned and looked displeased. Staring at Feng Wu, he drew closer. Feng Wu cringed involuntarily. The look in Jun Linyuan's eyes was so frightening. They looked like bottomless pits. And his gaze was as sharp as a blade. Feng Wu and her companions weren't the only ones here. Quite a few candidates were sitting around them as well. Everyone was on edge when they saw how Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu. Especially Mu Yaoyao. She clenched her fists and her eyes popped out. This wasn't happening. How could His Royal Highness? Even Gongsun Qing was jealous. Not to mention the other girls. Jun Linyuan's hand changed direction before he touched Feng Wu's cheek. Thump. He smacked Feng Wu on the forehead. Holding her head with both hands, Feng Wu stared at Jun Linyuan accusingly with her limpid doe eyes. What was that for? Are you an idiot? Jun Linyuan glared at Feng Wu. Have you forgotten what you're like? How could you enter Zone 1 when you have zero cultivation ability? Do you want to die that badly? I don't want to die. Then what were you doing in Zone 1? I was snatched by those Qilin beasts. Why did they take you, of all people? Because I'm pretty. Feng Wu's eyes twinkled and she grinned at the crown prince. Staring at that mischievous smile, Jun Linyuan drew in his breath. The onlookers all watched their interaction in amazement. The girls in particular were all overwhelmed with jealousy. Since when was Feng Wu so familiar with His Royal Highness? Were they making small talk now? Was His Royal Highness? You idiot! Jun Linyuan smacked Feng Wu on the forehead again. Feng Wu looked at Jun Linyuan with teary eyes. But that didn't stop you from saving me. Feng Wu felt so aggrieved. She had encountered one disaster after another since she got here. After being teleported to Zone 2 straight away, she had had to fight 3 magical beasts all at once. Despite all the hardships she went through to kill all of them, she didn't get to absorb any spiritual essence. With much difficulty, she had managed to save Chaoga, but that ice-fire beast showed up and pursued her relentlessly. When she finally provoked a fight between that Qilin beast cub and the ice-fire beast, which killed each other, Blade had then hunted her down. She then had to split the team up and use a Qilin beast to kill them, only to be snatched by that Qilin beast afterward. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.